Hello everyone. I welcome you all to the live session on ELK Stack tutorial by Intellipaat. But before we begin the session, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you'll never miss any update from us. Now let's begin with the agenda. Firstly, we'll start with introduction to ELK, where we will discuss what actually ELK is and what are its uses in cloud computing. Post that, we'll discuss the components of ELK, that is, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. Then we'll move on to ELK Flow. We'll also be performing a hands on demo on single node installation with Elasticsearch, Kibana, and Logstash Beats. Post that, we'll learn how to analyze log data. And finally, we'll discuss some details about filter plugins. So, guys, this is the agenda. Now, let's begin with the session.
So what is ELK? So the ELK stack is a group of open source products from Elastic. So what is Elastic? Elastic is a company name which is designed to help users take data from any kind of data source in any format and search, analyze, and visualize the data in real time. So there's a huge difference, okay, where existing products which are there in the market to what ELK stack has achieved. Okay, so ELK stack can help you analyze data in real time, okay, which is the biggest advantage you have when compared to you using any kind of a what you call any relational database system kind of a tool which is going to help you understand your data in real time. So and elastic stack, right, the heart of elastic stack is something called as a elastic search. In the ELK stack or elastic stack, there is one product called Elasticsearch which is going to drive everything. It was created by someone, and that is a very powerful way, and which is completely different way than what we are currently running. Okay, so this is mainly used for analysis and search, analyze, and visualize. So this is specifically used for log analysis, and ELK is the world's most dominantly used log analysis tool in the market, and it completely trumps Splunk or everyone in the market share because the ELK is completely free of cost. And yes, ELK stack will represent a steep learning curve. Why steep learning curve? Because you need to set up everything, all the building blocks, right? You need to do that. But when you go to Splunk, right, you can directly go and install Splunk within a couple of hours itself. You can have up and running because since you're paying a lot of licensing cost for Splunk, right? Splunk will do most of the activities for you, of you. Most of them will be pre-configured and everything will be ready to be used out of the box, like dashboards, all these things. But here in the Elastic Stack, there's a considerable amount of a steep learning curve because the ELK is made of three different parts and these three different tools should be interconnected. Then you need to do a lot of tweaking, all these things. But as I told again, by putting this extra effort, right, what happens is you get some rewards or gains which is going to be highly useful, which is not going to be available from any other underlying infrastructure or software in a company. So today, earlier, right, ELK Stack as a company has started only to provide log analysis, but today it has branched out into so many kind of situations that it's going to be highly useful. And from Facebook to Netflix, right, there are thousands of companies today who are actively using ELK Stack in their enterprises, ranging from analysis and product search or enterprise word search or monitoring, APM. Okay, so there are different what you call situations today. ELK Stack is used by most of the companies, and we'll see that. Okay, and Elastic was founded in Amsterdam in 2012, and that company was formed to support the development of Elasticsearch. Okay, and it's related to all the commercial and services. So initially, Elasticsearch, right, was a one important application, and that important application is the core of everything, which is called a Elasticsearch. So ELK means it is a three tools case, okay, and I hope you would have known by now, and that is Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, and slowly it changed again later. So the main four components of Elastic Stack is Elasticsearch. Okay, this is a component which is going to store the data in Elasticsearch. So this component will store the data. Logstash is kind of a person who is going to feed the data, like your Splunk feeder jobs. So this person is also a very important component where he is going to read the data from various sources and then he can write to various sources and he will write into the Elasticsearch. So this person is going to actually get the data from various sources, and he'll not just get the data in a plain format, he also can transform the data, or he can also modify or filter the data, and then you can store it to various outputs. And one of the most common output for Logstash is Elasticsearch, because Logstash is going to collect the information and store it to Elasticsearch. Then Kibana, the Kibana is a graphical user interface. It is only an application which is going to provide visual interface, and it will do a lot. Why? Because you have a lot of data, but until unless you don't get meaningful insights from it, it's waste of doing any search. That's why Kibana is also a very important component, where it is going to be used as a visual interface to all the data we are going to collect. And Beats is a new component, but it's already now more than 3 years now, 3 to 4 years. These are lightweight data shippers, okay, that sit on different servers and send data to Elasticsearch directly. So Elasticsearch here is, as I told you, the heart of ELK Stack, which is going to be a very high powerful database, which is a NoSQL database. And Beats are these small lightweight agents which are single application without no dependency, where they are going to keep sending the information to your Elasticsearch. They are going to be directly sending. The Elasticsearch is going to save that. Okay. And yes, we will talk in lot more detail than this. Okay, because understanding your ELK stack architecture or components, or what is the importance of it, is very critical. Okay, let's talk about a problem statement, like how is my what you call a ELK stack going to help me. Okay, so that once we understand the kind of problem statements, so that you'll better understand it. Okay, let's take that. Okay, your customers are looking for product information, okay, from the business with huge product catalog. So you have an e-commerce site, okay, where the customers are looking for product information, and you have a huge product base, okay, and you also have a huge client base where you're facing an issue with a long time in the product information retrieval, because Amazon has a millions of products as a listed, right? It's going to be hard time for retrieving. So what happens is, this is going to lead to a poor user experience, in turn going to miss the potential customer. So you may also potentially lose my customer, because if it is slow, the customer may not be interested anymore, or he may not be as interested in browsing your site, and he will lose the interest and he may go to another site. So what happens is, the lag in the search, right, is attributed to your relational database used for your product design. So where the data is scattered among multiple tables, and the retrieval of meaning user information requires fetching from them, right? Because we all know everyone uses an RDBMS, a relational database management system, and the most popular of all is Oracle, right? That's common. There's no logic also, because Oracle earns billions of dollars, and in today 2020 also, Oracle is the most stable application. SAP uses it, okay? Everyone uses it, okay? Because everyone trusts it. So it's so trusting that, okay, everyone uses it as their backend. It means that using these kind of relational database systems for retrieving your product information is going to slow down, and it's going to be the main culprit for that slowness in your product search. So why? Because your relational database, right, works comparatively slow when you are going to look for a huge amount of data, and you're going to fetch that search results. And what are we going to do? We are going to do this through query. I'm going to send a query from the database business application, and what happens is, it is becoming slow, and it is slow. That's where the businesses have started looking for alternative ways, where the data stored is in a such a way that it can be quickly retrieved. This can be achieved through a NoSQL database rather than a RDBMS database. And SQL has some kind of properties, right? You know, ACID properties. SQL is based on these ACID properties. ACID are for these four pillars, right? Means your SQL should be built on these four rules. Okay, ACID. That's a foundation. Okay, atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. Okay, so your SQL is based on these four properties, and any SQL server, means any structured query language which is going to follow these ACID rules, will be your relational database management system. And your Microsoft SQL, MySQL, or your Oracle DB, all of them follow these ACID properties, because those are the core principles of how your database management system should run, where everything has this proper schema. Okay, and remember that whenever we are going to create a database, right, we always first decide on the schema, because what is going to be your schema is going to be the one of the most important things for your application development. See, a lot of people think that, okay, if I tell you that, okay, I'm creating an e-commerce application, okay, for the e-commerce application, what will be there is three tiers, okay, the database tier, the application tier, and the web tier. Database tier, where you're going to store the data. of the customer or my products. My application layer, where the actual business logic we write, how the user should be searched, how the content should be processed, everything. Okay, the main business logic of that whole e-commerce application will be written in your application layer. And web layer is the how are we going to display the information in a UI. Okay, so which component do you think is the most complicated to be designed in these three components, right? Which component do you think is most important to be designed? It's your database. Why? Because the Java applications are nothing but they are only about a application which people write to query upon the database. See, if you have created a proper database with a perfect schema, it is easy for your developers to write Java code to retrieve, because literally 99% of the time, any Java application most of the time will deal with a database. Either it is updating the information, pulling the information, or update or creating it or deleting it. Okay, you know the CRUD, right? Most of the time, right, any request originating from a Java application most of the times has a CRUD operation. Either you may need to create some data. Creating means if you have bought something, it will be adding an additional create table, because it will be adding as a new data, because you purchase something, it should be written into the database. It's a create. Read, you're just reading your account information or your address information, or you're just reading your past 6 months purchase history. Or update, you're changing your personal details or home address details or mobile number, doesn't matter. And delete, you are canceling your what you call your order you placed yesterday, you're canceling it, so it's a delete. So it will literally go through any of this. So it means that you should properly design your schema, and around that schema you write a Java application which is going to actually read the data and show it to the customer. So this way, right, we have done from very long time, but now what happens is people wanted a new way, because not every time, right, we were having structured data. We had a lot of unstructured data, and this unstructured data started becoming increased highly. Okay, for like 7 or 8 years back, right, there was not much unstructured data to be processed, but today we have petabytes of information which is specifically unstructured data. And unstructured data cannot be properly maintained by NoSQL, by normal SQL, because a SQL needs a proper schema. Okay, means what is the row, column, everything, what is the primary row, everything should be properly defined. Otherwise, you can't store the data, and it should always have the same column, number of columns. If you all the data should only have 4 columns. If any of the data has 5 columns, you can't store the data in the table, because the table only accepts 4 row data, or sorry, 4 column data. So means SQL expects you to have a specific what you call number of rows, everything, the type of the data, everything. But the NoSQL doesn't care about it, because it is an alternative to SQL and it doesn't have any schema. No schema means there is no set rule that okay, that the customer ID should only be number only, okay, or the customer ID should only be name only. It can be name, number, and one customer can have 4 columns and one customer can have 6 columns. Okay, so it can completely change. So the NoSQL is an approach to a database where we can accommodate wide variety of data, including key value, document, columnar, and graph format. Columnar means data which is in the column wide. Okay, so the columnar and graph means it will look like this, guys. Okay, this is a graph database. Okay, in the graph database the data will be stored in this kind of relationships. Okay, yes, today we have databases which are going to use, which the data is stored in this kind of a graphs. Okay, which is interrelated nodes. Why? It is also having special use cases. In that use case only it will be used. And if you want to see the columnar, right, the columnar is going to be completely huge columns of data. Okay, column storage is like this. Okay, so the columnar storage again is going to be huge columns of data. So it won't be there rows. Okay, it will be in the opposite column. So more columns will be there, less rows will be there. So that time you're going to use a columnar storage. Means one user will have a lot of records. Means one customer will be there, his information will be highly a large amount of information with each column. So that time use a columnar database. So these all kind of databases, right, are cat underscore NoSQL, where they don't have any set schema at all. Okay, and they are not required to follow any schema. And large scale companies initially started using, but today most of the companies have use cases. And if you have heard the term MongoDB, right, the MongoDB is the world's most popular NoSQL database. He has become so popular now. Okay, he's the fourth most popular database. So the usage of MongoDB has eclipsed a lot now, and lot of people use it. Okay, means that is the most commonly used NoSQL database. Okay, In a NoSQL database, right, the data will be stored in the JSON format. So you all know JSON. How does JSON format looks like? So the JSON, right, is the one of the world's most important interchangeable format. Okay, why JSON is important is without JSON we can't live for a second also today, not even nanosecond. The JSON is that JavaScript object notation, which is that you can think it as like interchangeable format. See, today, right, no company has the same programming language. See, when you go to your Uber application, right, what happens is the Uber application is going to send some information to the Google to retrieve the data, because when you go to Uber, right, what are the maps you see is not owned by the Uber is going to request Google Maps to show the maps information. On top of it, Uber will overlay his information like putting the car symbol, but actually that maps is not his own maps, he's going to use Google Maps. So when different companies applications, or within your company different applications wants to talk to a different application which are written in different programming languages or different complete different stack, everything, right, people wanted them to talk in a highly simplified way, and JSON became that. So it doesn't matter what programming language you're writing, you ask a question in a JSON format to a person, and the other person is going to accept your request, understand your request, and again he's going to respond back in the JSON format. So the JSON format today is that interchangeable format used by the human tech readable programs. Okay, and this is the standard on top of which the whole world today runs. Okay, so it doesn't matter, you can output a JSON request and you can also read the JSON request and understand that information and process that. Okay, and that's the main reason for JSON. So JSON is not a programming language, it is a small syntax based what you call language, which is only going to use to represent data. To only represent data, JSON is used. JSON is not a programming language. So a JSON data will look something like this. Okay, so it is a proper representation of your JSON. A JSON always opens and closes with your curly braces. Okay, and this is a one record in JSON. Okay, description, mode, name, type. So this is one record, this is one record. So normally in your SQL, right, what happens, it will show you table. In the table it will be like this: description will be one column, mode will be one column, name will be one column, type will be one column. But here the JSON is going to represent the data in this format. Okay, this has a clear use case where it is going to in real time search for your applications. Okay, and elastic search, in the elastic search, right, the all the components, this is the main component, guys. Okay, this is going to drive everything because he has the capability to respond to your queries near real time. You loaded, like for example, let's take a 1 terabyte data or 2 terabytes of data or even 100 terabytes of data. Okay, and you requested for something, you ran a query, that query will run within seconds or less than a second. That is the capability of elasticsearch, because the elasticsearch doesn't store the information in a relational way, it stores the way in a non-relational way in the JSON format. So in a typical SQL, right, what happens, you run a select command, you write select star or select city from, for example, from list of cities. So that will be sent to the your database server, and the database is going to send you back. But what happens with Elasticsearch is the Elasticsearch is a document oriented database designed to store, retrieve, and manage document oriented or semi document oriented information in real time, because you store the data in the Elasticsearch in a JSON document format. Okay, so any information which is being fed into Elasticsearch will be stored in a JSON format. Whatever it is, your application logs or your server logs, anything, it will be fed to JSON and store it as a JSON, and then your query it is written. So this is a schemaless and uses some basic defaults to index, means it will have some basic indexing by itself and it will use it. Okay, and in the background your Elasticsearch is based on one important component called as a Apache Lucene. The Apache Lucene is this important search engine which is built in the Java, and that is your heart of your Elasticsearch. So Apache Lucene is a text engine or search engine. Okay, so this is a core, okay, which is going to be driving your Elasticsearch. Okay, so this is Apache Lucene. This is an open source product, and this product is heart of your Elasticsearch. Apache Lucene is a highly performance, full featured text search engine library written entirely in Java. Okay, so someone has written a small Java program which is highly efficient, highly performance, and it has a fully featured text search. Okay, and Elasticsearch is based on this Apache Lucene. Okay, let's go to a little bit deep dive into architecture. Okay, so the Elastic Stack has four important components. Before, earlier, people used to call it as a ELK stack, but once Beats came, right, people have changed the term. So let me show you. First, let us see this one, and then we'll go there. So until 2015, right, people used to call it ELK stack, but after 2016, right, the ELK stack has been renamed to Elastic Stack, which is something you should remember, or you should going forward only call it as Elastic Stack, but not ELK stack. Why? Because see, the ELK stack, the whole story began with the Elasticsearch. I told you the Elasticsearch is nothing but which is an open source distributed JSON based search engine. Okay, so this guy is a very highly powerful search engine. Means like Google search you have, right? Google search is also a powerful search engine. A search engine is nothing but was knowledge to search on top of a huge amounts of data with less latency, and that's what this is. Then it increased to Logstash and Kibana. So once ELK stack was only having three components: the Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. But later that community got expanded and the use cases increased. Then they added Beats to ELK. This brought an additional tool. So once the Beats product was added to the these three products additionally, so they thought that ELK was no longer needed because there is fourth name. So instead of putting ELKB stack, something like that, they told Elastic Stack. So the Elastic Stack is a ELK stack, but with more flexibility to do great things. So this has been renamed to accommodate additional component which came as Beats. The Beats is a small component which we'll discuss in detail, and which is going to be useful for gathering and sending the information, and you're going to store it. Okay, so you need to call it as Elastic Stack now. You should not call ELK Stack. And this component, right, you see the base components will be always the Beats and Logstash. Why Beats and Logstash? Because those guys are going to be the persons who are actually going to retrieve the data and process the data, and send it to Elasticsearch. The Elasticsearch is a component which is going to store, search, and analyze. Okay, so he's going to be the heart of the every product. So Elasticsearch, he is an application who is going to store information in the JSON format, and when you ask him also, he will respond to you back within nanoseconds or milliseconds of time with the appropriate information. And Kibana is this a tool which is used to visualize and manage our application data. Okay, so we can visualize it. Means through Kibana we can create dashboards, okay, visualizations which are very good visualizations. Okay, so the Kibana has a very good visualizations available which are missing from every product in the market. Means there are a lot of different kinds of graphs, okay, dashboards, and UI boards you have, through which you can exactly represent the data in the most easiest and intuitive way, so that the business people or the non-technical people can consume that information, right? Not every time you want to search, you want to sometimes only show that in a meaningful way. But remember that people use Elasticsearch also extensively to search. Okay, that is why when you go to Elastic Stack company, right, they tell Elastic Stack is a search company. So they can't tell them a search company because they help you search a lot of information in a very short amount of time. And let's see that architecture. Okay, so the ELK flow. So you have three servers. Okay, in these three servers you need information, and you have the information about your log information. So when you write a Java application or any application, even a .NET application, what happens? Application logging is very critical. Through application logging only we can actually know whether was some information, there was some issue midnight or yesterday, or during any point of time during the application runtime. So now you have faced a situation that, okay, that the production services are not working correctly. So once you get this message, right, what happens? We log into all the servers where that application is running, and we are going to always troubleshoot through the logs itself, because the application logs are the first point of troubleshooting in any company. But that application may be running in 8 servers because it is a distributed application or high availability application. You can't go to each and every server and search it. It's going to take long time. And also, since that logs are separated, right, you can't know what will happen if that all the logs are combined and you search it on top of it. And that's where one of the most basic or the fundamental use case of ELK arises. Analyzing logs at scale combinedly from a single location. So you can combine all the 8 application logs into a single location, and you can then search or query upon it to get meaningful insights in a very simple and efficient manner. And not just about it's going to be historical data, it will allow you to search in real time. So you can keep feeding your ELK stack and you can keep searching it in real time. So this is not about old data, guys. Okay, a lot of times, right, people talk about some old data, so the data which was collected, but ELK stack constantly collects, constantly stores, constantly allows you to analyze at near real time. So in real time, you can install the Beats application. A Beats application is a small application who is responsible to gather the information from any source, and it's going to send it to the Elastic Stack directly. Or else, if you need some kind of transformation, means some filtering you should do, means the data you gather directly is not in a usable format. You need to either cut it or transform it in some other way. Then you'll send it to Logstash. The Logstash will filter it, transform, and then the Logstash will store it to Elasticsearch. If the information is already very good, you can right away store. The Beats can directly send it to Elasticsearch to store it. And the Elasticsearch, as I told you, is a search engine who can store information, and it's going to store that information. And then through Kibana, I'm going to visualize it. Clear? So in Splunk, right, you don't have this kind of different things. In Splunk, you download the Splunk installer, you install it, done, right? And how does the Splunk licensing works, guys? Does you know how am I going to pay the money to Splunk? On what basis? Means if you are processing daily 15 GB of data, or if you are feeding 15 GB of data into Splunk, and 15 GB of data is being processed and stored into the Splunk's own format, then you pay that much money. That is why Splunk quickly becomes a very, very costly tool. Okay, and a lot of companies are not even interested in spending a penny for their log analysis product or log analysis aspect of their enterprise. That is why ELK Stack is crazily popular, because I have done a Splunk a couple of years back, and we used to easily reach the threshold. And Splunk used to create a kind of a notification how many times you have breached your data in the last 15 days, and that information will be actually sent to Splunk, and Splunk will again ask you to pay more money. Okay, and Splunk also very easy to install. Once you install, you can dedicate what is hot storage, cold storage, what is your cluster, and where you want to store. You know that it's means you have a single UI console, all the cluster information will be there. But here also, this is also easy to install, but to maintain in real time, you need to put little more effort. Okay, so let's talk about this products in detail. Okay, so the Elasticsearch, as I already told you, this is based on open source application called Apache Lucene. Okay, the Apache Lucene is a search engine who can process JSON text, and Elasticsearch was taken to create that Elasticsearch application. They took that Apache Lucene and they did a lot of modifications to it, and that has become the core of Elasticsearch. And it can also be used as NoSQL database and analytics engine. And remember that don't try to use Elasticsearch as your application data. Means don't store your customer information. You can store it, but it's not efficient. It's efficient for searching and analyzing, but not for generalized purpose. Yes, if you really want to use it, you can use, but never try to use Elasticsearch for your general purpose. The general purpose, your SQL database is always good, but the kind of search activities and analyzing activities, right, which is your Elasticsearch is going to be very popular. Okay, and the purpose, as I told you, is Elasticsearch is basically schemaless, and it works in near real time, and it has a RESTful interface. What is RESTful interface? What does it mean? The rest is again very, very important. And if you know, right, the whole internet works on REST API today. Whole internet works on REST API. The REST is nothing but it is an application programming interface that is going to use HTTP request for your information gathering or to your information request. See, there are two applications they want to talk to each other. Okay, we have your RPC protocol, TCP protocol, your what you call SSH. Okay, so there are different kinds of protocols available today for applications to talk each other either in the same location or in the same data center or complete in a different geography, but we fundamentally need a set of rules on how we can communicate to each other. That is a standard, and that's called protocol. But increasingly, right, people started talking only on the internet. So people wanted a lot more simplified and efficient way of communication, and it wanted a simplified way of interface. And that's where the RESTful started. The REST is an API. What does API mean? The set of exact rules on how can application can be communicated with. So if you want me to talk to, I am going to lay down some ground rules, and those ground rules are APIs. How can you communicate with that? What is the syntax? How can I reach out to it? What is the protocol? What is the port? What is the syntax? What is this? Everything is defined through API. So APIs expose your application to internal applicants or to the external applications. The REST API means it's a REST. application interface that uses HTTP request to perform the operations through get, put, post, and delete data. The RESTful API, also in short form, people call it as a REST API, is based on a representational state transfer technology where the architectural style of approach to the communication is used through web services development. So whenever you see web services where you use the REST, and the REST uses again, see, REST is a set of rules how can people communicate over HTTP protocol. But when they're communicating the API, everything, the data which they communicate is JSON. So that is why the REST API and JSON are, they move hand in hand, because the REST APIs are web services which are going to ensure that different applications are going to talk to each other. They have told we will use HTTP protocol as a communication medium, and for our web service communication, or one web service to talk to other web service, and they told the data we will use is JSON. That is why wherever you see JSON, REST API, they all come together. And understanding your HTTP protocol is what, that is why very critical today. Today, HTTP protocol has become the foundation of every service talking to every service, because you can simply set it up, and it's easy to secure by putting SSL on top of it, and it's easy to understand. Means the HTTP protocol is very easy to understand. Means anyone can right away understand. You don't need a very complex knowledge to understand it. That's why today even internal communication in your companies are today happening on HTTP protocol, and that is the foundation of your microservices and whole Kubernetes Docker world. They all also talk through REST API only. Today, it is mandatory that any Java application or any application you write today can only be interfered or interfaced through REST API. So you wrote a small application, okay, a calculator application. So if someone wants to ask you a question, they should ask you in a REST API question only, and that question should be in JSON format only. Today is the industry standard. I don't care what programming language you used. I only expect you to accept a request over HTTP protocol to a REST API in the JSON format. By following this standard, right, people have drastically simplified their communication. Okay, that's your REST, and these are very, very important. The REST, right, the REST API, your JSON, your microservice, right? That's where the industry is moving, and that's something you should know. And it's not very complicated, because the REST is basically set of rules only. You need to use it. So means this guy can be talked through your HTTP protocol. So he will respond to your HTTP protocol, and you can ask him questions, and which helps us interact with multiple interfaces. So I can ask a question from my browser to Elasticsearch. Even also I can ask from command line. You know curl command, curl duplicate. You know these two
Uh,
commands?
yes.
Yes. The curl command, right? You sometimes as a developers, right? You guys use curl HTTP colon, right? To check whether a service is running or not, right? So the curl command is a small Linux utility which operates on HTTP protocol. So you can ask questions through curl to any application who is responding on HTTP protocol is going to respond back to you with that answer, and we'll see that. Okay. And your Elasticsearch, right, is a analytics engine where you can run a query or a search against that, and you can retrieve that information. And it stores your data in the most optimized way. Elasticsearch, right, I told you, is one person who's going to store and allow you to retrieve. But when it is storing that information, it is going to store in a highly efficient way so that you can read it. And your implementation of your what you call database, right, is in a lot different way, because Elasticsearch will keep ingesting the data. Let's go to the next component, the Kibana. So Kibana, I told you, is completely a UI graphical user interface application, okay, where you can do a lot of things. When Kibana was first released, right, it was only used to create charts and histogram. Histogram, you know histograms, right? Since you guys are already Splunk, so you know different ways of displaying the information, right? So histogram is also one way of displaying information. You can use pie charts, you can use what you call dial, right? It shows you like a speedometer. That is also one kind of representation, and histograms are one kind of represent. Charts are representation. So it used to only have first charts and histograms, but with each update, right, the Kibana has evolved now, which has a lot of important features that make Kibana stand out of the crowd. Okay, and if you really want, Kibana also can work in a standalone mode, but it's highly effective when it's only working in tandem with the other two components, Elasticsearch and your Logstash. So let's talk about these main features where Kibana is useful to you. Okay, it will help you discover your data by exploring it. So you can explore your data visually. Okay, what are the data Elasticsearch store, right? I can see that visually. We can analyze your data by applying different metrics. Yes, I can in real time apply metrics and see the output, and I can visualize the data by creating different kinds of charts. Chart here is nothing but a dashboard. Okay, in terms of Kibana, we call it as a dashboard. And you can apply machine learning on the data and get anomalies or feature trends. Yes, you have machine learning features in ELK Stack, which is a paid feature. But your company, since you are already going with Elasticsearch, most of the companies go with the Elasticsearch paid only. But as I told you, if you don't want to use only some features, some advanced features, Elasticsearch is completely free of cost. You can deploy as large cluster as you want. But there are some features, right? Because Elasticsearch also is a company who should also pay salaries to his employees. So he can't release everything free, right? So you should put something aside which you feel that okay, you're compelled to pay money. That machine learning, some important features he has what you call he has hidden from the customers in the open source version, and if you pay money only he'll give you that, because again that company should run sustain, right? So that's why. And you can monitor your application through APM, application performance monitoring. Means when you write a Java application, you're not just interested in writing knowing whether Java is running or not. You also want to know what is running in, what is happening inside the Java code. That is possible. All of these things can be possible through your Kibana, which is mostly about allowing you to see the information in visual way and also visualizing them through different charts. The Logstash I told you is the actual data pipeline that can take the data input from various sources, filter it and output into various sources. Means Logstash also can be used independently, and it can be used as an input to Kafka or any other databases. Okay, so Apache Kafka is also a very popular tool in the market today, which is related to big data, but we'll not go there. But Logstash can work independently because it's a small software which constantly reads data from an input and sends that input data to multiple different kinds of outputs. But again, Logstash will work better when it is used together in this ELK stack, and it can also take the data which has been collected and sent to other sources other than the Elasticsearch. The Logstash is very important tool, guys, okay, because he is the primary person who is going to be the person who's doing all the hard work and collecting information from everywhere and properly feeding that information to the Elasticsearch. So Logstash is that person who is going to act as a Splunk feeder jobs. Okay, in the Splunk you have feeder jobs, right, where you install that, it will constantly collect. But here it's separately having its own name called Logstash. Okay, and we can take any type of data using Logstash. Okay, structured, unstructured, anything. It doesn't tell okay, I need this information with this structure only, because it is NoSQL. It accepts any data, any unstructured data is happily ingested into Logstash, and it will be stored in your Elasticsearch. And Beats, I told you, Logstash became, once ELK Stack became popular, right? The Logstash became a thick application. Means it was very, very hard for people to install Logstash everywhere because it was consuming a lot of RAM and CPU, and it became a thick application. So they wanted a very simple, efficient, lightweight application, and that's where the Beats came. See, Logstash is going to be, it can fulfill any kind of a requirement, but your Beats, right, is a purpose-built small applications. There is one bit called file bit, there is network bit. So the bits, right, are small applications which are single purpose built lightweight data shippers that are used to get the data from the different servers and then send it to the Elasticsearch. So the bits can be installed on all of your remote servers in a company, and it is a lightweight agent which sends information to the, either it can send the data to Logstash or Elasticsearch. They gather from the machine on which they are installed and send the data to Logstash, which can then be passed or transformed the data before sending to Elasticsearch. Or you can send the beats directly to the Elasticsearch. Okay, and the beats have been very instrumental in making Elasticsearch popular, because in Logstash, right, you need to do some transformation. You need to write some logic of where is the code, where is the data available, how should I read it, and where should I send it. So you need to write some logic. But your beats, right, it is out of the box, very simple to set up. So that's why there are a lot of beats, and these are all the different kinds of beats. There is a beat called file beat. The file beat is the most popular of all the beats because he's going to take or ingest log data and send it to Elasticsearch to store it. These guys are very, very light in weight, guys. Okay, no one will ever complain you, your application team or any database team or any team will never complain that okay, guys, you installed the agent on our server. That guy is taking a lot of RAM is a complaint you'll never get, and it does not have any dependencies. It's very, very lightweight. There is one thing called metric bit. The metrics bit will gather the metrics from your server. Metrics means your CPU, memory, file system, all of them is a metrics bit, a small tool. And packet bit. Packet bit is going to gather the network data. The networking is also very important because hackings happen most of the time on the networks. Windows bit, Windows events. Windows event means, you know, right, in Windows server or Windows laptop, right, there are events happening, okay, which is going to be gathered by your Windows laptop or Windows server. This guy will gather all these events and keep sending the data. And audit bit for auditing information. Audit means reading the system log files or system operating system files to gather this auditing information. Heartbeat, uptime, only uptime. whether the server is available or not. That's all. It will not do anything. And serverless means functions. Today there is a new industry trend called serverless. I'm not sure whether you heard this, guys. Have you heard AWS Lambda anytime? See, no matter what you do, right, you always need a server, right? A server means a computing environment, means where the program you wrote should run, right? That's mandatory. Without a laptop or without a server, nothing runs. The whole IT world doesn't run, right? But people are making to run without that. Means you are never going to interact with a server anymore going forward. That is called serverless architecture. Means you are going to write a code and you will upload the code to a location. Once you upload the code, whenever the request comes in, the code will run, or else the code will be in sleeping state. That is called serverless. That's where the industry is heading. So it means that within 5 to 6 years of time, right? If you are not into any kind of development or to Splunk or this kind of analysis tools, right, you will not have a job. Why? Because going forward, server management, server maintenance, installation, configuration will be thing of past. So people are going to serverless, where you don't need any server. The only thing you need is a analysis. That is why right now most of the companies are investing in your data analysis tools like ELK Stack or Splunk, or also the machine learning tools like your what you call this TensorFlow. All this kind of tools we are going to do that. Okay, means if you're not associated with data, it's going to be very hard for you to have a job going forward. You should be associated to data, whatever it is. Either you're creating data or perform, or you're analyzing data, or you're storing data, whatever it is. But you should be friendly with data. Okay, if you're not friendly with data, then you're in a very bad position. Let's discuss about this Elasticsearch in detail now. Because once you understand Elasticsearch only, you'll understand the whole ELK stack, because that guy is central to everything. The XPack is the Elastic Stack extension that provides security, alerting, monitoring, reporting, machine learning, and other capabilities. Okay, so these by default are installed, and it only gives you a 30-day trial version. After that, you need to pay money, subscription money, to get that still run in an activated mode. Okay, alerting means your what you call ELK stack does not have capability to send emails. Okay, it can gather everything, but it cannot send emails. It cannot provide security. It does not provide you reporting, machine learning. So these are all not most of the time important. But if you feel that are the things you need, then you are going to need what, a paid product. And the Elastic paid. And one important thing is, guys, do you know how the licensing works? Oracle database is a licensed product, right? We need to pay money to Oracle company, then only they'll give us a full version of Oracle 12c for us to install and use it, right? That's basic logic. But do you know how that licensing works? Based on the CPU core. You install that Oracle database on a 4-core CPU, it will be one cost. But if you install that Oracle database on 100 servers, each server has different cores. All the 100 servers, different cores will be taken, calculated, and that's how he's going to charge you. And he will also regularly check it also. How can Oracle check? Yes, there are some agents which are mandated to be installed, part of Oracle software, and those agents will gather information, and that report will be asked by Oracle to send to them. So once they send it, inside that it will be a report only Oracle company can open. So that's how they'll really know whether you have correctly telling them on how many servers you installed or not. So it's a complex headache process. But the ELK stack, right, doesn't care about on how many servers you install. It is a single money. Okay, means buying Elasticsearch is why it is meaningful. Is it will not care about how many servers you install, how much time, or how many instances, on how many cores, okay, how many features. Out of the box, everything will be unlimited use, which is a very rare in the IT industry, and ELK Stack does that. That is why you can buy ELK Stack happily without thinking, okay, I have a large use case. So in the Splunk, what happens? The more data you analyze, the more costly it will become. And once it goes beyond some threshold, it will be very costly for you. But ELK Stack, one-time payment, and that's going to be same for Oracle or for anyone. Means even it can be same for any company. So that's why it's highly cheap to use. Okay, clear? And let's talk about the Elasticsearch architecture, not the whole ELK stack. Only my Elasticsearch. The more Elasticsearch you'll understand, the more you're going to understand, because it also has its own query language. Okay, you can do aggregations, you can do mappings. So it will almost look like a database only for you. When if you're properly learning Elasticsearch, right, it will almost look like you're learning some database only. Because if you know that how the database is working, how can you make aggregations, how can you make queries to the database, then only you can know how can you leverage that properly. Okay, let's talk about the Elasticsearch architecture. Elasticsearch is a real-time distributed search and analytics engine with high availability. Okay, it's used for your full search, structured search, analytics, and all the three in combination. Okay, and I told you it's built on top of the Apache Lucene library. Library is nothing but a whenever you have something little less capability than application, people call it library. Library is also an application only, but it does not have standard interface. So you define some interface on top of it. That's why it's called library, and it's a schema free document oriented data store. Okay, you can just upload a document, it will store it. However, you fully understand your use case, the general recommendation is not to use it as a primary data store. Primary data store means storing your actual primary information about your customers or your business information. And I told you the advantage is that the RESTful API uses JSON over HTTP, a single line, which allows you to integrate, manage, and query index data in variety of ways. So due to this simplicity, right, it's highly available in multiple use cases. And the Elasticsearch is most important.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in cloud and DevOps, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification in cloud computing and DevOps by ENICT Academy IIT Roorkee, and it is taught by IIT Roorkee professors and industry experts. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job. Now let's continue with the session.
You need to know is how you need to store the data. How does it store it? And Elasticsearch is a database by itself. Okay, it's a database by itself which will store information and also to run queries on top of it. So here the Elasticsearch, when you install, you can install in a single server mode. Okay, single server mode means the Elasticsearch will be installed on one server. You can install Kibana on one server. But when you install Elasticsearch, right, you quickly go to the what to clustered mode. Okay, you're not going to be satisfied with a Elasticsearch in a single server because you need redundancy, you need clustering, you need replication, you need high availability. You want your search to be running far faster than the in a single search. So it means that you quickly go into a requirement that you are going to install the Elasticsearch component only on multiple servers because the data you may be ingesting is going to be a lot. Okay, or the queries are going to be a lot. So what you do is there are four components in your Elasticsearch. Means when you install Elasticsearch, you can enable only one of the component to be active. Means there are four activities Elasticsearch will do, and you can enable which activity, which search. You can install Elasticsearch on 5 servers. Okay, and you can make one guy as couple of people as master, couple of people to only be ingestion, couple of people to only be data, some couple of persons to be coordinating. We will understand what are these four roles your Elasticsearch performs: coordinating role, data role, master role, and ingesting role. And by default, when you install Elasticsearch, right, it will have all the four properties enabled, and you can go and disable, and they will start working and they'll start behaving, each one with their own purpose. So each node has its own purpose and responsibility. Each node can forward client request to other appropriate nodes. Okay, by default this will be there. Each node can forward the request to other nodes. Okay, that's the basic feature they have. But what is master node? Means when you enable the master option or the master eligible node option, what does it do is the master nodes tasks are primarily used for lightweight cluster wide operations, including or creating or index, tracking the cluster nodes, and determining the location of the allocated shards. Okay, so this is your primary work of a master. This guy is not going to really search or analyze because he's not doing the business. His business is only to be as an active master who is only going to take the incoming request and send the request to the cluster nodes. Okay, so here you have installed your Elasticsearch product in a clustered mode. When you install in a cluster mode, you can make one person only as a person who is going to be kind of a manager person, other person to be within the hardworking persons who are going to actually get the request for analysis. So in the Elasticsearch, one person can be made only for searching. One person can only be made for routing. One person can only be taken to only ingest the data because a lot of people are sending you data. So you also need to properly process and store it, right? So you can use it for ingestion. So here, this master person is not going to do all the kind of hard work. His only work is to be a lightweight, cluster wide operations. He will create indexes. He'll track the cluster nodes. Okay, and he'll determine the location of the shard. So by default, the master eligible role is enabled for everyone, and the master node can be elected to become a master node. If you have two or three, they'll get elected, and you can disable this type of role for a node by setting node.master to false. Elasticsearch.yaml file will be there. I'll show you the YAML file. You can go simply to YAML file and mark this node.master to false to make this a node. Disable it means it will not be master. If it is not master, there are three things he can do. He can act as a data person, ingest person, or coordinating person. Data person means a data node contains data that contains your indexed documents. Everything we stored in the ELK stack is called as a document. So here we have little different terms than your standard relational database terms, which we'll discuss. So here it's called document. And this data node is only going to store all the data which has been sent by every kind of a application, everything. And it handles your operation related to the CRUD search. By default, the data node role is enabled, and you also can disable the role by setting this node.data to false in the elasticsearch.yaml. And you need data nodes, and you just don't need one data node, you need at least have 3 data nodes so that you have your data in a high availability way. And ingest node is only for processing the information. A lot of people are sending the data to you, so you need to properly process and store it, right? The ingest node is a server or where Elasticsearch is installed. Its purpose is only to process a document in the pipeline mode before indexing the document. That's all. His work is to properly take it, index it, take it and store it in your data node. Then coordinating node, this guy is only going to act as a coordinator. He's only going to route the request. That's all. Routing the request, handling the search reduction phase, and distributing the work via bulk indexing. This guy is only acting as a router person. Okay, so if there are a lot of people who are using Elasticsearch to constantly search, right, he's going to route the request to the Elasticsearch who is free, and he's also try to distribute the work by bulk indexing. Bulk indexing means you'll index the data in multiple locations and you'll try to gather at the same time. So these are the roles you have. Okay, and when you install Elasticsearch, people are going to install Elasticsearch on a lot of servers, and then they will activate on one server one of the option and one of the option, and they'll make sure that they have a required capacity. This is where I told you where initially you may need to do some planning, and you need to have at least 2 or 3 master nodes and a lot of data nodes, and one coordinating node is enough, and 2 or 3 ingestion nodes are enough. But the most important is data, because you need to store the data, guys. Okay, and the data should be also replicated again, means at least 2 copies of data. Otherwise, because one of the server, right, where the data is stored, if it goes down, whole of the data will be unavailable to me until unless that server is brought up. So that's why people also go with the replication, means the data will be replicated and the data will be stored across your servers. Okay, this is nothing but normal server where you install a small software called Elasticsearch software, but the behavior can be controlled by activating one of the option here. Okay, so
Yeah.
this much detail we don't go into Splunk, because Splunk doesn't go. Splunk is going to completely hide the operational details from you, because you are paying a lot of money for him. He'll not expect to do all of these unnecessary things for you, because you are paying a lot of money. He'll simplify everything for you. But here it is open source. We can customize it as much as you want, and that also has a huge advantage, because you go to Facebook, you go to everyone, right? They'll not use Splunk for their amount of data processing. They need to write a blank check to Splunk company, because they will process, like, I can't even imagine how much data these large companies will process. They may be petabytes or zettabytes also. Then Splunk company overnight will become the most richest company in the world, just because he's getting license money from Facebook. So most of the large companies, Netflix, all these guys will not at all touch Splunk. Who will use Splunk? Where I don't have money to spend on people, resources to have this up, everything, right? Those guys will go, because they want hassle free, out of the box, which can be set up with a couple of days. But once your requirement slowly grows, people quickly go to Elasticsearch. Why? Because they have a lot more control in how they can do that. Very large companies, it's impossible. You know what? See, Facebook is the world's most busiest website. Facebook has 200 crore customers, 230 something. Okay, recently, means almost 35 to 40% of the population of the world has a Facebook account. What database does Facebook use? Any idea? He will not use Oracle. If he'll use Oracle, right, he need to again write his company's whole, what do you call, whole revenue to him only. He uses MySQL. Remember that once you go beyond a certain basic use case, most of the companies will use completely open source products. They are not interested to pay a single penny to any other competitors. Okay, clear? Google also has its own database called BigQuery. Google will not use any of the people's databases. They all have the capability to create their own databases, because the licensing cost, because whatever they install, right, they will install at least on the minimum of 10 lakhs to 40 lakh servers. In our company, typically we'll have anywhere from 100,000 or 4,000, 5,000, max 10,000 servers you'll have. But those guys will have anywhere from 50 lakh, 70 lakh servers. So that number itself will be very lengthy. So if they buy the tool to do this kind of things, right, if they are going to pay per server, right, if it is per server $100, right, then you know the charge. So that's why they'll not go with it. Okay, at the minimum they'll have 40 lakhs to 50 lakh servers, Microsoft or Facebook. So let's talk about this data. Okay, we need to understand what is stored inside, so we'll understand what is fields. The fields are the smallest individual unit of data in Elasticsearch. The field means when you are inputting some data, right, the fields are something like a author name. So we have seen example of this earlier JSON format, right? So just in this JSON format, so this ID, title, completed, these are fields. Okay, the smallest unit of information in a Elasticsearch is a fields. Okay, so ID is a field, so that's something we should understand. Those are fields, the smallest individual units of data in Elasticsearch. These are customizable and could include, for example, title, author, date, summary, team score, etc. Okay, and each field has a defined data type which contains a single piece of data. Right, a data type can be your string information, a name can be string, mobile number can be number, date of birth can be dates, whether he's sometimes he's whether prime customer or not can be yes or no also, right? A boolean kind of data. And also sometimes complex data types like objects and nested objects means an address can be a complex data type which is having nested, because again in the address part itself again will be like his road, house number, apartment. So a field can be also a complex field also. And sometimes you also have the geodata types which are very important for using the geographical analysis, okay, where you'll have the lat and long also information where there are geotypes, and special data types like the token, and data types like flattened information, rank feature, all this kind of things also. And these are the smallest unit of a data in Elasticsearch. And the multi-fields are where they can be indexed in more than one way to produce more search results. So multi-index, multi-fields means you can use the ID, right? For example, most of the times ID, name, employee ID, these kind of things are unique ones through which we can uniquely understand the document. Remember that when you want to understand this guy, right? Since you all know basics of SQL, right? You'll be writing a lot of SQL queries day to day in your Splunk, right? So let me show you that what you call the distinction so that you'll better understand. Okay. So here index is called as a database. Okay. Index, see in database, right? The word index is used for a very different term, right? But in Elasticsearch, index means a database. Index means the data. Okay. The location to the data. So when you install Oracle database software, you create a database inside it, and that is nothing but which holds the information in the rows and columns. So that is called index here. And field is field. Right now we are looking at this field. Okay, understood? So that's what we are looking at here, which is a field. And multi-field, which can be used in which can be leveraged in multiple ways. Okay, when we can index in multiple ways. And beta fields are not much important, but our multi fields and our fields are the important data you have. And fields are nothing but name, author, value, customer data, whatever it is, that's going to be field. And multi fields easily available through multi field option. Then document. The documents are the JSON objects that are stored within an Elasticsearch index and are considered the base unit of storage. Don't confuse the index with the indexing. Okay, please try to keep remembering index means data. Okay, here in the Elasticsearch, index means data. Okay, group of data, and each data is going to be called as a document. Okay, so in terms of your comparison, right, if you go here, it's not there, but it is a single unit of information. For example, you have a one row, right? One row has what? Column and row value, right? Column will tell name. In the row, it will have Gautam, first name, last name, the data, right? So that complete information is called as a document. So document are JSON objects that are stored within an Elasticsearch index. Index means the actual database. So you have documents and are considered the base unit of storage. Okay. In the world of relational databases, documents are compared to a row in a table, right? One document, one row. Here, one document, one JSON object. And in terms of your, if you want to picturize it, this is one document. This is one document. This is one document. Because in these to-dos, there are two things. Okay. So this is a document. This is a document. Understood? So document one, document two, document three, it will send, it will understand, it will do that. Okay. Now let's understand the other term. Let's assume that you are running an e-commerce application. You can have one document per product, okay, or one document per order itself. So which will represent information related to that operation. For example, order document will be name of the customer, what is the order he had done, what's the date of the delivery, what is the price paid, what is the location you should send. Okay, all of this will be your document. Okay, you can have one document per product, or you can have one document per order itself. One document product means one product is there, you ordered three products, three books you ordered, each book will have again information, right? So it can be anything. Okay, there is no limit on how many documents you can store in a particular index, unlimited. The same way, right? In a database you can store even 2 crore lines also, right? Typically our database are very lengthy ones. Here also no limit, you can store any number of documents into a particular index. The data in documents is defined with fields comprised of keys and values, right? I told you JSON is one of the simplest way of representing data. And here the key and value both are our own, okay, our own choice, which is nothing but here. Okay, this is the key and value. Yeah, this is also JSON. Okay, the key and value. So these are keys, these are values. Okay, so and those are the simple way to represent your JSON data. Name, age, car are keys, and John 30 and the null are the values. Okay, so defined, the data in the document is defined with fields comprised of keys and values, and the key is the name of the field, and the value can be an item of many different types of things like a string, boolean, expression. Again, it can be an array of values. Okay, and document also contains reserved fields that constitute document metadata such as underscore index. Okay, each document will have metadata, right? Because when you're storing some information inside my, right, I should know where, in which database I stored, right? So it will have metadata called underscore index. The index where the document resides, underscore type, the type that the document represents, and the underscore ID, the unique identifier for the document. So this is a document here. ID3 type, your index type, index underscore source. So these will be automatically added hiddenly. Okay, automatically this will be there. Okay, which is your ID type and index for every document. It will be there, index type and ID. ID3 means that's the third document. Okay, because inside an index, right, you can store 10,000 documents. So each document should have a number to it, and also what type of document it is, whether it's any kind of document, okay, text based document or string or anything, and then again the unique identifier for the document, okay, which is a unique data, and also the indexing. Index means where it is stored. That's a basic information. Every document will be added when you add. This is all done by the ingesting person. Ingesting person is going to give all these details, okay, because that's why someone should be there to ingest. So if the ingestion is going to be a lot, right, so you can create a node only for the ingestion purpose, dedicated for ingestion. He'll get everyone data, okay, because if every you only have one elastic person, right, he's only indexing, he's only searching, he's only providing master, he's only indexing, so it will become complicated. That is why you quickly run into a situation where you need your Elasticsearch to install in lot of servers. Mapping goes, right, in that Elasticsearch 7.0, the index type has been deprecated. Okay, why? Because going forward only one kind of a index can be there for a document. Earlier 2 3 indexes were possible, but right now we are on Elasticsearch 7.5. The Elasticsearch 7.5 is the latest version right now, and 7.0 came around in 2018 September, so it's already pretty mature. So in Elastic 7, what you call mapping, right, 7.0, index type has been deprecated. Okay, means the type index is deprecated, but the data type is still active, mapping. So until 6.0, different types that reside within index were possible for 6.0. Until then it was deprecated in 7.0. Okay, only one type can exist within an index. One type means what type of the data is only going to be one kind of index. Indexing, you know, right, indexing means trying to find out the information faster. Okay, that's why we index it, right? Only one type of data can exist inside your index, which is your storage. So it is going to define the fields for the documents for a specific type of data type. Only one type of data type is possible, and using the data type only we can map it, what data type for what index, and how the fields are going to indexed and stored in Elasticsearch. Okay, so you're putting some data here. Okay, age, type, long. So you're going to put this type equal to string, means this data is only going to be going forward put as a string only. That's a string kind of data. So I am going to get the mapping. So this kind of the document which I'm storing is going to have a mapping which is going to give only one kind of a data type to be mapped. Earlier in 6.0, I was able to map multiple kinds of, means I was able to map it as a string, alphanumeric, or string, number, or boolean, but now only one is possible from 7.0, and that's a major change. Once, if someone will ask you what is a major change from 6 to 7, this guy was a major change. Okay, that changed a little bit. The people wrote query or optimized, but you are learning directly 7.0. You need to worry about what happened earlier. Okay, understood? That is mapping. Mapping means for a specific document, what is going to be the primary kind of a data type which is going to be associated with the document for the index. The whole index we are going to do that. Means all the documents which are part of the index, I'm going to make one person a data type to be the primary one. But mapping types is gone now because it's only relevant for the previous iterations. It's completely gone now. We'll not discuss about it. Index, I told you, index or indices, the largest unit of data in Elasticsearch, which are nothing but the logical partitions of documents that can be compared to a database in the real world of relational databases. So one index means hundreds of thousands of documents who are similar to each other. Okay, so in Elasticsearch we can create any number of indexes, and it's always recommended that you create separate index for same kind of data. Don't create a index and put all kind of it will accommodate, but when you're going to search, right, the search will not be relevant because the ID name will be for some name and for some it will be employee ID. So when you're going to store information in the Elasticsearch, it is your basic duty to properly segregate by creating different indexes. One index can be for application logs. You can create an index and send all the logs into that index only, so that tomorrow you write queries, it will be easy for you to get the information, because all the kind of information which you're sending will be a document type. All the documents you're going to store in index should be of a similar kind of data, so it will be easy for your queries to work. Otherwise your queries will have all different types of data creating, right? So it's not, there is no requirement, okay, that you only should create one index. We can create any number of indexes. If you go to your e-commerce application, you can have one index containing all data related to the products or all the data related to the customers. So you can have as many indices defined in analysis as you want. This in turn will hold your documents that are unique to each index. So ensure that your documents are unique. So which is the basic way of again you properly planning your indices or indexes on your Elasticsearch. And indices are always defined through lowercase numbers only, okay? And it's not possible to put caps, okay? And there are some basic best practices for you to handle the indices, which is in the best practices document, but we'll see later when we are going to create, okay? Then what is sharding, okay? Shard is a very important thing in any database, okay? Most of the time this will be dealt by administrators. You as a developer or you as a what you call a data analyst doesn't care about it. So put simply, shards are a single Lucene index. They are the building blocks of your Elasticsearch. What does it mean is, see, I have 100 GB of data, okay? If I put all the 100 GB of data on the same server, for me, the search becomes slower. So what am I going to do is, I am going to break down this 100 GB data to four different parts, and I'm going to store 25 GB on each server. Now what happens? I can do no parallel search. My search will be 1/4 faster, right? Why? Because it will complete 25% of the time only, because I am sending the query to four different servers. I'll get the answer and I'll attach it and I'll give you. That's what called sharding. The sharding is to split up the indices horizontal into pieces called shards. This allows you to distribute the operations across shards and nodes to improve performance. Simple. Understood? So index size, right, is commonly one of the main cause for your Elasticsearch to crash, because if you're having a 100 GB index, right, and if you ran a query against it, that query should run on top of 100 GB, but it's still going to be very faster than your traditional writing SQL query on database, but still it will crash. So instead, what happens is we will create shard. Sharding is again possible through clustering only. So if you have 6 data nodes, right, which we talked about earlier, Elasticsearch architecture, you have 6 of these servers. So your data will be broken into 6 parts, and 6 shards will be created. So that again, because the index has unlimited storage, if you start gobbling up that information, right, that's going to be a problem. That is why you're going to use this sharding to ensure that it's going to split up the indices horizontally into pieces, okay? And then when you create an index, right, you can define how many shards you want upfront, and each shard is an independent Lucene index that can be hosted anywhere in your cluster, okay? So your Lucene index will be there, and you'll easily find out, okay? So when you are creating a this index, you can tell number of shards, number of replicas. Number of replicas means that shards will be again replicated, because if you only have one shard each server, if one of the servers is down, then 25% of the data will be unavailable for you. So when you search it, right, you'll only get partial result, because that server may be down for some valid reason, because Linux team is doing patching activity on that server. They have a valid reason to bring down that server, but just because they brought down that server, you can't have a what you call a partial results for you. It's not acceptable, right? So what you do replica means two replicas, means that shards will be replicated, means 25% will be there, but that one of the 25% will be there in two locations, okay? So 125% part will be there on four servers in two different locations, so that what happens now, you have a replication available, so the data will be replicated. So it means that again the storage requirements will increase, but again, as I told you, today's storage is very cheap. You should never worry about storage. 1 terabyte storage today is only around $30 or $40. So not even $30 enterprise, it is $10. So the data is very cheap today. And that's why no one in your company or your manager or senior manager, no one will ever complain you that you are taking up more storage. The storage is as cheap as possible. You even ask them a petabyte, they'll give you happily. They'll not even ask a question today. What is petabyte? 1,000 terabytes, not one. It is 1,000 TB. People will happily allocate to you. Okay, they'll not even ask a question. Earlier it used to be, but now yes, you want 40 GB, you want 50 GB, or 100 GB, you want 100 terabytes also, it is fine. They'll give you replicas, which was we were just now talking. Replicas, as the name implies, are Elasticsearch fail-safe mechanism, are basically copies of your indexes shards. So means which will look like this. Let me show you a document which I have. Elasticsearch sharding, as we told you, it's the same thing here. He's showing you have an index of 1 terabyte. You can break it to four 250 GBs and place it into four different servers. So the sharding solves a problem by dividing the indices to smaller pieces, and those smaller pieces of data of index are called shards, and each shard contains a subset of the index's data. Which percentage to which percentage you have, it will have that information, okay, in the metadata. And when you create a shard, right, your document will be showed in only one of the shard. It will not be available in multiple shard. That's not sharding. Sharding means copy will only be one copy. That if you have 40 documents, 10 documents in each shard, no replication there. Replication means you should replicate the whole shard itself, but sharding will not give your high availability. The advantage of sharding is it doesn't matter which server, you can simply put on any server, okay, they'll understand that logic, okay. So there is no logic, there is no best practice, nothing. The shards can be go and sit anywhere, okay. And now your four shards are there, two clusters, so there are two shards each, okay. This is how a cluster will look like. A node, two nodes, and on each node there are two shards, okay. Now replication, shard A will be there on two, shard B there two, and replica C, okay. So node A, node B, okay. So there are four shards with me, okay. In this, the actual shard is here, but for that shard there's a replica on the node A. Shard B is originally on node B, there is a replica here. The shard C is on node A, but for that replica is here. So like this it will do replica, means if any one of this down also, I will still have the complete data shard available with me. And that is also one critical thing you should perform or set up when you are going to set up your Elasticsearch cluster. How many replicas you want and how many shards you want. The more replicas, the more shards and more replicas, your data will be highly available, and the query will run far faster than running in a single server. Understood? This is the original, this is a replica, this is the original, this is a replica. So that guy made four shards of his index, and here you see the replication concept, which are two main things: the fault tolerance and high availability, and enhanced performance, which is again critical for you when you're doing analysis part, because you're not just storing and leaving it aside, right? You're constantly analyzing it. And again, as a matter of fact, the number of replicas should also be given at the time of the index creation only. The way I told you, the number of shards also should be given at the time of index. The number of replicas also should be given at the time of index. There is some data you want more replicas, you can give that. And for some you don't want many replicas, you only want one, because it doesn't matter for you. So it's again based on the storage, because if it is 10 terabytes of data, you're making two replicas, then you need 20 TB of storage, right? Because it will make two copies of it across your cluster. So you need 20 terabytes. That is why you need a lot of data, guys, okay. When you talk about Elasticsearch, right, you need GBs and GBs of data, okay. You need at least terabytes of data on each server. And one more thing, you should ensure that your replicas are synchronized. If your replicas are not synchronized, what happens? The data will be, see, this is the original here, okay. So shard C is original. I am storing a document here. If this replica is not synced with this, what happens? When this original shard C is down, the replica C will not have the updated information. Then my queries will not be effective, or my analysis will be not up to the mark, or not, I can't trust it anymore. So that's why one important thing is you should ensure your replicas are synchronized, okay. Do you need to do anything? No need to do. Elasticsearch takes care of it, but you should understand the concept, okay. So here you need to do anything for synchronization, because the Elasticsearch keeps its replicas in sync by using a primary backup model. It will keep primary and it will keep backing up, okay. The primary shard is responsible for performing some of the validations on incoming operations, like structural validity, everything. And then if the operation has been accepted, the primary shard then actually be performed locally on the primary shard. Once the primary shard is going to perform the, what you call, the data operation, store it inside, it is then forwarded to the other replicas within the replication group automatically. So it's not going to do hourly or per minute basis. If it gets some data, if it is proper data, if it is not corrupted, it will store inside and right away send the replication request that, guys, you are my replicas, you update yourself. It's going to send that, okay. And once the operation is done, the primary replica also gets the information back, okay, that okay, that replica got updated, I will get information with me, okay, that successful information or the document has been updated with it. And let's talk about how a search query is executed, okay. That's what the total point here, right? Yes, getting the data, inputting is a important thing, but the most important thing is search queries, how you can run queries, okay. So when a client sends a search query to the cluster, right, it hits a node. Node is here nothing but Elasticsearch node. This node which has received the request from client is called as a coordinating node, and which means that now this node is responsible for sending the query to the other nodes and then assembling the results and responding to the client. Why should I assemble the results? Because I am not having the all the index in a single server, because you have made shard. Sharding means the data is partially available in four servers. The results will be partial results will be gathered and assembled into single output and then sent to the client. So now you have understanding, guys, what is Elasticsearch within ELK Stack. Because whatever you talk about ELK Stack, the Elasticsearch is the most important component, because the whole of this application has been made on top of this powerful database, which is called Elasticsearch. Okay, so let me launch an instance. And when you're trying to create a server where you're interested to run your ELK stack, it needs at least two cores, a processor and a 4 GB RAM. Okay, so since I told that we can run locally, I'm not going to go ahead and create anything. I'll cancel and exit it. So what I'll do is I'll use it on my local machine. Okay, this is my local machine, and I'm going to use it on my local machine. And my local machine is already a Linux machine. My local machine is a Linux, means my laptop is not Windows 10 laptop, but my laptop is a Red Hat Linux Enterprise 7.6. Normally, whatever we have using to do, right? So normally the Linux laptop itself is that. So I don't need to do that. So I'm not going to create a server because we'll directly use it in the localhost, and we'll also get to learn some new tools. And let's go to official site and see how can we download. Elastic.io is official sort of your Elastic company. It's elastic.co. And we'll also see one more, which is going to be cloud one, which is going to be very handy for you because it gives you AWS complete setup free of cost for you for 14 days. I will show you that also. We can, which is called Elastic Cloud. He'll only create 4 or 5 servers for you, everything properly created, connected, everything means you can right away go and start practicing right away. So that's also very handy, and I'll also tell you that also. Okay, which when you go to try free, it will show you how can you go to Elastic Cloud. So Elastic Cloud, it will give all high configuration servers for you, and it will create and set up everything for you. Okay, so if you want, go to the elastic.co site and click on try free. And in the try free, you see a lot of components. Okay, but the core components are Elasticsearch, Kibana, Beats, and Logstash. These all are small components. The APM, App Search, these are all additional components. Elastic Cloud, I told you, they are only going to spin up everything for you, install, configure, connect everything, and right away give you so that you can start right away accessing it. That is Elastic Cloud. Okay, Elastic Cloud Enterprise. If you are from a company, you can use Enterprise. If you are a normal user, like any personal user, or if you're an individual person, right, who want to learn, you can go with Elastic Cloud. These are all what you call additional components, but not your actual tools. XPack, I told you, right? XPack is nothing but additional components which are paid components. These are all open source. You can use whatever you want. This Logstash, APM, App Search, but XPack is paid. Okay, so Elasticsearch by default gives you a paid version also. So let's go to download. I'm not interested in launching on Elastic Cloud. I'm interested in going to Elasticsearch download section, and there are multiple ways of installing it. Yes, it is possible to install on Windows, Mac, Linux, Debian, and RPM. RPM means a Linux based, which is specifically Red Hat. But I'll choose the Linux one. In the Linux one, you don't need to install, configure anything. You can just download a zip file, unzip it, go to that location, and start the program and start right away accessing it. It's very simple. For Windows also same. You download the zip file, you unzip it, go to the bin location, run /elasticstack.bat. You hit enter, it will be right away starting, and you can go to your browser and do localhost port number. It will give you access. Okay, so I am going to hit on the Linux one, and it will right away start downloading it. Okay, it's around 277 MB in size. It will be .gz. Gz is a one of your compression algorithms in Linux. Okay, like your WinZip and WinRAR, gzip is also something. So I already have downloaded upfront. I don't want to go through download now. So I'll cancel it, and I have downloaded and placed it here. Okay, Elasticsearch 7.2 this. So you can unzip it, but everything will do command line because this is a Linux machine. So I can open a terminal here, right click open terminal. So have my file downloaded. It's around 277 or 280 MB in size. So tar xlf. Okay, I've just unzipped it and go to the directory and go to the config. In the config, the most important config is your elasticsearch.yml. Okay, so elasticsearch.yml will give you the important configurations for your Elasticsearch. The node name by default will take node-1, and the cluster name is my-cluster. So if you don't want to do anything, you can have it commented. Just because commented, it doesn't mean it's not applying. It is applying the default value. If you're interested to change it, then uncomment this value and change it. But I'm not interested in doing that. And if you come a little below, you see this. Okay, discovery is where you're going to mark them as a your nodes. Okay, node 1, node 2. So you're going to mark them as either node 1 or node 2 or gateway, all of them. Okay, so here I've not yet enabled my clustering. When we go to the clustering, we are going to enable this, but right now we are not going to enable the clustering. Okay, and we'll take the default values. The HTTP port is 9200, the default one. So I'm not going to do any changes here, and I'll come out, go to the bin directory. Remember that the Java is a prerequisite for your Elasticsearch, but here they gave the directly, they only gave the JDK bundled along with the installation file. So I'm not going to specially install any Java. If you don't have Java installed on your machine also, it's fine, because Elasticsearch will bundle the JDK along with your installation files. So no need to take care of it, but still you need to remember why, because Elasticsearch as a program is written in a Java. In Java programming language it is written. Okay, so that's why JDK is mandatory. So here I have a /Elasticsearch. Okay, and if you run like this, it will right away start. But if you want to run in background mode, you can run like this, and you also can give a PID. I'll give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the PID, which is a process ID. -D means it will run in the background mode. Means you can still continue using your system. If you don't use, it will be running in front of you, which is foreground. So hit enter, or else I can show you what will happen if you don't put anything. You hit enter, it will start showing you the logs, and it will be running in the foreground. Foreground means you can directly interact with the application like this. And when it is running in this mode, right, if you try to do anything, it will come out of it. So that's why it's never told that okay, you should run it in foreground. If you do run it as a daemon, right, I can still use my command line. If I try to type anything, right, it will come back and it will exit it. And when can you confirm that your Elasticsearch is properly running is that you should see this message: active license is now basic and security is disabled, because we have not enabled security. So license is basic because I told you we are using the free version, we are not using the paid version. Active license is now basic. So once you see this message, it means that your Elasticsearch is up and running. And let me open one more window, or let me exit this. You see, if I try to use my command line, it right away told stopping closed. So that is why it is always better to run with -D, -P, and the process ID. If I run like this now, you see, I got my command prompt back, means I can still access my screen. And how can you confirm it is running? Check for a Java process. Do PSF and you have grep Java, you will see your Elasticsearch running. Okay, my Elasticsearch 7.5 Java process is running with the port 12345. Okay, so 12345 is the PID file. Okay, that's a PID file you call it. Yes, it is running as a background process. Everything is good. Now, how can I confirm? And I told you what is the main interface in which we are going to talk to the Elasticsearch. What did I tell you? We discussed some things, right? Industry standard. What is the primary interface of we communicating with the Elasticsearch, asking something and we getting answer back? What is a protocol, or what is it we
REST
discussed?
API.
Yes,
Yes.
REST API, and the data format is JSON, which it stores, but the application programming interface is REST API. It's going to be a HTTP protocol. Over HTTP protocol, it's going to be a REST API call. So a REST API call is nothing but you making a HTTP request. So curl command has that capability. A curl is a very basic Linux command who has the capability to communicate over HTTP protocol. And you want to download any softwares also, we can download. We saw this, right? If you want to download anything from internet also, curl will help you. So HTTP localhost, the default port is 9200. So I'll do 9200, and if I hit enter, you see this is my cluster information. This is my name of my machine. This is my cluster name. My cluster user ID means within the cluster this is the ID, and my version is 752. The build type is star. Tar means I downloaded this as a RK file. You also can download installation file also. When you go to your installation, if you go to this RPM, right, it will give you a .rpm file where you can do rpm-ivh rpm command, which is nothing but in pure Windows terms it is installation. So this type of application is not a installation based. This is going to be a tar based, means we download this tar file, right? So that's the type of installation. And the build date, license Lucene version. Lucene means I told you what is Lucene, right? It is the actual heart of your Elasticsearch. I have only installed Elasticsearch component, guys. I have not installed ELK Stack. I have only installed one component of the ELK, the Elasticsearch, which is the heart of your ELK, which is a database who has the capability to store information and also search and provide analytics for you. So this component is running, and that's how I can talk to it. There is no other way. Only way is making a API call to him through HTTP protocol, and if the API request is proper, I'll get a proper answer, or else I'll get something error like this. Okay, index not found. Okay, so no such index. Now let's go ahead and try to create an index. But is it a better way for us to talk to this kind of applications? Because is it a better way UI? And I would like you to go and learn about what is Postman. The Postman is a API development platform. Okay, you are developing APIs. It is a very good application, and it's also useful for people who are accessing applications. Okay, accessing applications through locally. So the Postman will give you a kind of a small window through which you can interact with any application over the what? Over the REST API through HTTP protocol. So this is a small software and we are going to download it and use it. And you can do this Postman also on your Windows laptop. It is a small application. So Postman is the most popular API development tool in the world, and this is from India. Indians found it. So you can directly go to click download the app. It is like something like a small kind of Eclipse, but not complexity of Eclipse, but basic web application kind of thing. Click on download the app. It will allow you to download the app based on your operating system. See here, if you're a Windows 64, click on this Windows 64. Mine is a Linux operating system, right? It automatically showed me Linux. So you can click on download now. It will download it. It's a small software, around 65 MB. And you don't need to install also. Once you download it, you can unzip and double click on the program. It will right away start. This is also a runtime binary. So I do have that application with me already, which is a postman linux.zip, and you see this is around 78 MB. So I'll unzip it, okay, because it is .gz. So I got postman, and here this is a postman program, and just run /postman. It will open me an application. Now let's talk about indexes. How can we see how many indexes are there? Okay, all those things. But let us learn how can we create an index. So to create an index, you can create a simple called put. So I am going to put something. Slash, you can give anything. Slash, for example, books underscore list, anything like that. You can give anything. So it will accept it and it will right away create an index for you. Okay. And there is nothing to put the body. I'll just click send. You see acknowledged. So I got the response. Okay. That an index called books underscore list has been created. So I created an index now. So once you create an index, then what you can do next, we can start putting information, right? So how can you put in information? You can start putting information by putting the data. So let's put an information. I'm going to put my document as document one, and in the body, I can put form data and I can send the data. Okay. So let's see that. These are all simple ways of putting the data. So my body, then I'll check raw, and I can post data here. Okay. So what data? So let us get some data. Let me some get sample data. Okay. Otherwise we can't work. Let's see if it is properly formatted. So this is a data. Okay, so what is this? This is going to be a, what does this mean, guys? I have a document. Okay, that's a document. So let us put a document. So we have created a new index and some documents are going to be put in that, and using the bulk API. So I'm using the bulk API. When you use the bulk API, we are going to put multiple documents. If you don't put this bulk, right, only one document can be sent, but through the bulk API I can send multiple. So I'm putting multiple documents. Okay, each document will have its document ID one. Okay, and this is the index, everything. So I'm going to use this to load bulk data, and book underscore list, books. Okay, those are my books, and then I'm going to underscore bulk. Okay, so because it should be bulk, and I'm going to put yes, because we already created the index. In the index, I'm just pushing the data. Okay, so let me go to my postman. I'm going to go to my body, raw, JSON. Okay. So I'm going to put a JSON information. This is about a book. Okay. Something, right? A book has a price, ISBN, author, description, title, and SKU. SKU means the unique number in that company list of books. Okay. So this is, I'm going to create it, and let's see how can we do that. Okay. And here I'm just going to first post it. Okay. So posting is going to be through creating an index. Okay, so if you want, first you can put a catalog, or you can directly put. So here let's create a catalog first. Even let us remove this and let us create a catalog. That's going to be my index. Okay, because here it's not books, I'll create a catalog. Okay, so put catalog will create an index. Okay, so index, which is going to be your body. Now let's go to my placing my content. Okay, and I want to create a mapping to mine, so I'll create a mapping. A mapping, I told you what does mapping means, guys. Mapping is providing the data type of this, all the kind of documents. So index is going to be list of documents, and creating through mapping is going to highly simplify our search. So what I'll do is I'm going to create a properties. I'm going to name this type as a text. Text is one of the type of mapping. Okay, acknowledged. So I've set my mapping type. Now let's create a type called a doc. I'm going to create a type called doc. Okay, so with one field of text. Okay, so let us create a type of a called a doc, which is going to be our. So let's create a document. So we have a catalog, we have a mapping, which is going to be text. So how to create a document? After the catalog, you can give your document type. So underscore doc is my document, and let's input some data. I'm going to put very simple information.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in cloud and DevOps, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification in cloud computing and DevOps by ENICT Academy IIT Roorkee, and it is taught by IIT Roorkee professors and industry experts. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job. Now let's continue with the session.
Name, books. This is a document, and you can submit and you can see the response. Okay, it's not put, it's post. Sorry, post and send. Okay, you see the shards, there are total two shards. Okay, and the index type is catalog, the type is document, and this is the id. The id is the unique id of each document you are going to push. If you don't give the document id, it is fine, it will randomly give. But if you also want to give the document id, you also can give the document id. Both you can give. Here I have not given the document id, that's why I'm posting it. When you give the document id, your method should be put, but here it should be post. And you see I've just stored a simple document, very very simple. If you want, we also can store another document. For example, catalog of what catalog? I have a catalog of audiobooks. Normal one is books, one is this. Again is going to create a new document, and which will give us a proper response that this is another, it has a different id. Okay, so I've created now. And once you have created a few documents are indexed, right, you can realize that you have added new fields in order to store. Okay, now you have decided that you want to add new information. Means I told you, that is why the schema analysis concept comes in. Now you suddenly got, okay, no, I want to add little more information. What you can do is you can start adding new information. That into your catalog you're starting to add music also. You only had books and audiobooks, now you're adding, and you want to add more fields to your document. And this time I want to add a description to my document, and the description is on demand music, listen to on demand music, something. Okay, listen to on demand music is a description, which is a music. So that's my description. And this time what we are doing, and what does elasticsearch does, elasticsearch will assign a type automatically based on the value that you insert. It will automatically assign the type value, and when the document is indexed with the fields, the field assigned is a type based on the field in the initial document. So now let's run again. Simple. I'm again adding one more document, and this time this is going to be, what is error, name, description, JSON needs commas. Now let's go forward. If you want to update your mapping, it is possible. Okay, so mapping of new fields can be added after the type has been created. So a type has already been created, but I want to update my mapping. Okay, I want to update my mapping to keyword. Okay, so earlier I updated my mapping. Now what I'll do is I'll update my mapping to keyword now. Okay, so I'll add my mapping, because properties are important for you when you search. Otherwise it's going to be very hard for you. So I've added one more mapping, which is updating. I told you mapping can only be one type, right? The data type can only be mapped one. I have not updated it, so I'm not yet created it. I've updated. Earlier I told you my mapping was type of text. Now the type is keyword. Okay, that's the mapping I have done now. Now any subsequent documents that are indexed with the code field are assigned the right data type. So now next time any data you add which is having the type code, right, will have a proper description assigned to it. Okay, if you add anything now, okay, let us go and add some additional data. So this will be properly cataloged later. Okay, because this time I'm adding new thing, because I told you earlier it was keyword only, text only. Now text, this is not text, right? So means it's going to be having numbers, so that's why we updated my type. Okay, That's going to be my doc, because that's my document. Okay, and that's my catalog. The sequence number is 3. So this is how you take care of your control of your behavior of this updating your common API conventions. Now if you want to do the same thing, right, on the curl, it's something like this: curl -x get http :// localhost 9200 / okay, catalog / doc. So you see the information is not getting properly showed, right? Normally it is correct, but it is not showing you. So what you can do is there's a small tool called JQ. Okay, it will be very handy. You can install wherever you use. So it's called JQ filter. Okay, so let me install through it. It is a pretty printer. Okay, means it will format your JSON which is not properly displayed to proper one. Okay, so I'll just do JQ. No JQ package available. Anytime JQ. Okay, how can I get JQ? 1 second. Okay, the JQ is getting installed. It's a very small tool. Okay, so this is how it properly print. Earlier you see it was printing in a very bad way. Once I installed JQ and I sent this data into JQ, that's all. Even this is also fine. You just need to run JQ, so it will properly make it. So you see now the same information you can get. If you want, you can do the same thing: curl -x get -expert. Okay, but here sending information will be tough. That's why we're using Postman. You see, this is your catalog information, and this is your mappings. Your mappings have properties code with the type keyword, and description is type text, and name is type text. Then settings, how many providers you have, number of shards, number of replicas, what is your important user ID, everything. Okay, so yes, if you don't want to use Postman, you need to know a proper syntax for your curl. You can easily use it. And xget catalog doc, and it's not formatted properly. So what you do is you need to properly format it. So that's where the problems come. That is why we don't use it. If you want this right, you need to properly format it, and you should tell pretty equal to true, then only it will work. Okay, so you see the type is id1, means this all complexity will come. That's why I don't recommend you using this. Okay, now let's start doing search. Okay, so let's go back to Postman. I want to search something. I'm not interested in putting in information. I'm interested in search now. Okay, now I'm going to get means I'll start getting everything now. Okay, I've done enough pushing information, so I'm interested now in getting it. You see, when I do basic search, I will get all the information I have. Till now, whatever the information I've pushed, I can see all of that. Okay. It took 364 milliseconds. Then hits total value 4, because we have sent 4 documents till now. Okay. The index catalog, where one is books, one is audiobooks, one is music, and one is a sports. Okay. So a simple search. Okay. And that's what is a search, because get, right, I'm trying to get the information now. We have done pushing. Now let's talk about this. So took means the time took, which is a milliseconds. Okay, taken the cluster to return the data. And timeout false means there was no timeout. And underscore shards means how many shards are there. There's only one shard here. One shard means all the index is only one copy. There are no shards at all, means we have not done sharding. And then the hits, what are the hits? Hits means the contains the actual documents that have matched. So there are four documents which have matched your query, which signifies the total documents that match the search criteria across all indexes. The max score displays the score of the best matching document. So max score is best matching document is 1 only. Okay, means, and if you want to search all documents in one index, you can do this. But if you want to search within a specific one, okay, so you can do your underscore doc slash. Okay, and if you do, it's only going to search within that doc. But it's again same, because our doc was the main one. So again, it's going to be the same thing. So catalog within that document or all the documents. Okay, so search this doc is my document. If you directly do underscore search, it will search within every document. But now I was only searching within my document. And what is my document name? Underscore doc is my document name. You can give whatever document you want. My document, document number one, document number two, or anything. Okay. So here, this time it's going to search on the document level. If you don't give directly on the catalog, it will search the whole index. And if you want to search in multiple indexes, you can put catalog, comma. Okay, we also put an earlier books underscore list, right? It will search both. So it has checked both, but one of that has empty, so we can't do anything because we did not input any data to our books underscore list. So books underscore list is an empty index. Catalog index has a lot of information, but that guy does not have any information. So you see the time taking is decreasing. First it was 360 milliseconds, next it was 64 milliseconds. Now it is 18 milliseconds. So it will keep storing that information. Okay. And when you want to start searching for a particular type, you also can search that. So this is how you do that. Okay, so let us see what you call some other operations. Okay, you want query. Okay, you can run queries. Okay, you see, I wanted to search only for the books, anything with books. So if you want to search anything with the book, that is the basic math query. Okay, which is a basic match query. You're matching something with a query. You're doing a query. Okay, so there are two ways of executing basic full text query. Okay, this using the searchlight. This is a searchlight type where you expect all the search parameters to be passed. So you pass all the search parameters part of it and you get the answer. Okay. So I've done a search now. I did not want to search everything. Okay. I'm not interested in getting every time a whole information. I'm only interested in doing a specific search. And this is a specific search. Okay. And for example, you want to do multi matching means multi match means instead of a match keyword, you want to have the same keyword again multiple fields. Okay. And you know what is fields, right? What is one of the field you have? Name. So let's query name. Query equal to name in whatever our with the words in action. So in name, what you want is a books. Okay. So this time I searched with a specific field because I was see if you search with a just books, right? That books can be any of the fields you can get. Okay, but here I was only specific field type, and the field type was name and name colon books. It's going to give me that. Okay, so that's how you can search on a field level. Okay, let me go to Kibana and let me show you how does it operate. Okay, but let's see if there are any other things we can do. So let's see how can we install. Okay, so we'll see how can we do in a single server. Let's take a Windows machine. We can take Windows Server 2016. So let me launch an instance. And yes, you can easily create a Windows machine, which is a Windows virtual machine in AWS, and have it within a couple of minutes. You can log in also. Okay. The thing is, you can't create Windows machine with 1 GB RAM because we know that the Windows operating system itself takes a lot. So it means that when you create a Windows based virtual machine, give at least 2 gigs of RAM at the minimum. Otherwise, it will not be enough for the application to run. So I'll take the Windows Server 2016 operating system. This is I'm going to take Windows Server 2016 base means the base one with all the basic features, and there is also a Windows Server 2016 which is with containers means it will have some container related technology which we are not needed. And from Windows Server 2016 we'll take this which is 64-bit x86, and I'll take T2 dot medium. Okay, 2 vCPUs and 4 gigs of RAM. Why? Because at least 1.5 GB is needed by Elasticsearch, and Kibana again needs 1.3 GB. So they both combined take around 2.7 GB. So at the minimum, you need 4 GB RAM. And in enterprises, when you plan for a release, right, you need to plan the amount of data you're going to ingest. For example, if you're going to ingest around 15 gigs of data every day, right? So what happens is you need to calculate, and if you want a retention of 1 year, so if you are sending 15 GB each day and you have a requirement that you need to store the data for 1 year retention. So now it will calculate approximately it is 360 GB into it's 450 GB monthly, and around it's 5.4 what terabytes. 5.4 terabyte unit. Okay, so means based on this you need to take a calculation, and when you're going with your what you call the high availability architecture, when you create a master node, the master nodes need just 8 GB RAM, but the data node you create, right, it needs at least at the minimum of a 48 GB RAM server. Means you need to provide at least 30 to 48 GB RAM, and so that it can calculate and store that much information. And you can create a 3 node data node and have the replication and this. So it means that if you need replication again, you need this plus what into 2. So it needs at least 11 terabytes, because if you don't have replication again, it's going to be a problem. And you should not have too much replicas or too much sharding also. Again, that's a problem. And data nodes, you can have at least 3x data nodes, okay, and with 40 GB RAM, at least somewhere around 12 core. And you don't need to worry, you get even 250 cores servers, okay, means the AWS gives you enough capacity. And masters can be have, you can have 3 masters, and you also can have 1x ingestion. And since this is Java, right, you can upfront give what it needs, okay. So we do have JVM options everywhere. So when we have this JVM options, we are going to go to JVM options and we can set it up, okay. And there are some best practices, we'll go through that, okay. But first let us do that in a single server, okay, without considering all of this kind of activities. So I'm going to take a Windows machine, t2.medium, click next, click add storage, and at least take 30 GB, because Windows, it's a very large operating system. It needs itself around 4 5 GB, so 30 gigs of storage. And I'll give something like Elastic Stack. And for the security group, you just need only security group related to the ports in the range of 9200 to 9300. So the 9200 to 9300 are the port range which are used for the communication between your master data and ingestion nodes, okay. So you don't need much. No, normally 9200 and 9300 are the most important, but if you give this range, right, normally it will be happy. Or if you don't want, you can only give 9200 and 9300. Only these ports should be open between the master nodes, which are nothing but the Elasticsearch nodes. So 9200, 9300, and every other port can be blocked. No need of opening in the upload. And yes, you always need to have 22 port open, otherwise you can't log into your own servers. My server is running, and click on connect and get password. And it takes time, okay. It takes at least a couple of minutes for us to log in, because the Windows, right, you need RDP client, means remote desktop application. Normally we go to Windows laptop, then we go to MSTSC, or you do remote desktop application, RDP application, and you then type in your host name or IP address. And once you click OK, if it is going to find out the host name, it then let you pop up your credentials. So to happen that, right, since it's a Windows machine, it takes little amount of more time than a typical Linux. So that's why it will ask us to at least wait a complete 2 minutes, okay. So click on connect here. You can download the RDP file. So click on download remote desktop file. It will download your RDP file. Okay. When you double click it, it will pop up you everything. And the username is going to be administrator, and the host name. And to retrieve the password, right, it will take time, because until unless the Windows server is completely up and running, I can't get the password, and the password will be inside the server. So okay, you see, still it's asking at least wait. So let's wait. Okay, so you should see something like this. Click on, so you have your key pair, right, through which you create your instance. Choose that key pair, go to the location where the key pair is available. So my key pair is available here, and I'm going to choose my PEM file, which you always use to authenticate, and then click on decrypt password. So your key file will be used against it to decrypt, and this is my password. And copy that and have it handy. Let me open a notepad and let me put it here. And now click on your RDP and click on accept certificate, and it will ask you to put a password, provide the password, okay, and click OK. And if everything is right, it will allow you to log into that Windows machine. And sometimes it looks like, but you can adjust screen resolution. So I have my resolution. And whenever you install a new Windows machine, right, remember that the Internet Explorer, right, will have a lot of huge restrictions. So obviously I need to now go and download a lot of packages, everything from the internet, right. So the Internet Explorer will provide us a huge restriction, okay. If you don't use the recommended settings also, for each website you run, right, it will literally make us the process more painful. So if I ask to go to google.com, for example, it will ask, are you sure? And it will give you this kind of messages, okay. So this is going to be a huge problem. So for this, right, go to the server manager. In the server manager, this is a setting, okay, to increase the highest level of settings on the Internet Explorer, which is a huge problem. So let's go to this and click on the local server here. On the local server, you can see Internet Explorer enhanced security configuration is on. So I'm going to disable it. So that enhanced security will be disabled for everyone, and ensure that is off. If it is off, then you can happily use your browser in your server. Okay, but most of the time this will be off in your enterprise, but by default it's on. Now I think I can go and fetch. Now the first thing is, let's download any other browser, because the more time we are in this browser, it's not going to allow us. So let me download Edge browser. The Windows server sometimes makes the process very painful. Let me see. There will be one some settings will be there. Let's go to google.com. Go to your elastic.io. So elastic.co. In the elastic.co, click on try free. And in the try free, it will ask you whether you want to use or not. So which we have seen. Click on download, which we have done earlier. So now click on Windows. It will ask you to save, and it will download very, very fast. So let me go to my downloads. But I told you, right, this is developed on top of Java. So it expects you to have your what? What is the prerequisite, guys? Java. This all applicants are written in Java programming language. So it means that literally these are all Java programs. And for a Java program to run at the most basic level, it expects to have JRE or JDK installed, so that it is going to have that runtime available. Otherwise, these programs will not have any runtime binaries to run for themselves. So let's go ahead and install the Oracle Java or Open Java. Anything is fine. Okay. So ensure you have Java, and if you already have, so you can go to CMD. In your CMD prompt, try to run java-version and check if you already have Java. And I don't have Java here, it means that there's no Java available. So now let me go, and if you go here, you will have the JDK, but I was just telling you that okay, we need Java. So I was showing you the basic what do you call it, from where you can get it. So here, get Java SC development kit 8. Go to the site, and whenever you try to download, right, Oracle expects you to sign into their website. Though it is free, Oracle makes this wantedly little bit complicated, asking you to log in. So if you try to download, right, the JDK 1.8, you click on download, you'll outright go to a login page. You'll wantedly go there. So yes, right away I can able to save it, and you can right away install, and it has downloaded. Okay, so that's your this one. So in the meantime, we have our Elasticsearch unzipped and readily available. Go here, Elasticstack, go to bin directory, and here in the window, right, in this bin directory, click CMD. So it will open a CMD in the current location. It's a very efficient shortcut, you can remember. So when you want a specific location command prompt, you can do this. Okay, and if you want, this is opposite way, means from a location you want start menu, you can do start space dot. Start space dot will open that folder in the UI, and if you want to go from there, it is CMD. So those two things you can remember, they're very handy. And now here, a simple command. So elastic search dot bat. Okay, and you run, it will start providing you the output. And right now the default is 1.8, but right now the official is 1.11. Okay, going forward, right, the way 1.8 Java was there for a very long time, the 1.11 Java is going to be a long-term release from Oracle. It's going to be there for at least up to 2024. So going forward, right, wherever you may see this kind of dependency, right, you may encounter this Java 1.11, but 1.8 this is fine, but you give 1.11 also, this is also going to happily accept. And this is a standard message you get. And once you get this message, active license is now basic and security is disabled as a standard message you get. And right now I have my Elasticsearch up and running, and if you can go to your browser and check it, it will be available. So go to your HTTP localhost colon 9200, which should give you your basic endpoint. It's fine, but now let's go and get our Kibana. Okay, here it's will go back. Now let's get Kibana. Okay, Kibana also the Windows, save, and it will download very, very soon. It's downloaded. Let's go to the download section and enter the Kibana. Kibana has a lot of files, guys, okay, because it is a UI component, right? There are small files there. It has around 100,000 files inside that zip file, which is a compressed zip file. Though it is 270 MB in size, right? Why it went into unresponsive state is it has started doing a very compute intensive activity. So it went into unresponsive state, but it will restore back, telling that, okay, there are a lot of files and it is trying to restore all of them. Means unzip it. We should see the window. Yeah. Okay. So first it's going to search for the file. So that's a big problem. You see, it is first discovering the file. So this unzip program is not just having 200, 300. It's having a lot of them, and you'll see that. And you all will also have the same time, which takes a lot of time. But you can put it aside and do your work when you're doing it, so that you don't have to wait a long time. It's running, though it is running fast, it will take considerable amount of time. I know that because I keep looking at it, so will not waste time. For this, what I've done is I've already unzipped in another location and have it handy. Okay, but yes, again, once we see that, we can come back, and here we see, though we started it, so let it run in this way. I will log in to another Windows machine. This is a Windows machine, so let me connect. So once it is started right properly, you should get this. Okay, you do localhost 9200, you get this. So here I installed another browser, which is Microsoft Edge, which is a new browser from Microsoft. Now IE has been deprecated. Okay, so you do get this message. Okay, so once your Elasticsearch is properly started. So here I've started the Elasticsearch, and you see the same message here telling that it is started. So I've done the same thing here. I came into this location and ran elasticsearch.bat file. That's all. And you see the message, future versions of Elasticsearch will require Java 11. Okay, so your Java version does not meet this requirement. Okay, so it means that going forward, it is mandatory that we should have Java 11. And once you have this, and this is where we done. And if I go to my download section, in my download section, I have my Kibana downloaded and unzip. And go to your Kibana, go to the bin directory, and open the command prompt. The Kibana, again, you have a kibana.bat. Okay, run this. And if you see, I have not done any configuration, because by default, when you are learning for yourself, the Kibana and Elasticsearch does not expect you to do any kind of configuration. They are going to self discover each other, nothing to be done from your side. But when you go to clustering, yes, that's where you start doing a lot of things. But for Kibana, it's always simple, because it's only a UI component. But for Elasticsearch, right, when you're installing as a cluster, we are going to do a lot of things, and that's where we'll see post this setting up. Once we'll start Kibana, then we will go to the Kibana UI, and we'll go to the Kibana section, and we'll see what is how does a Kibana look like. So right now the Kibana is coming up, and it will take a couple of minutes. Okay, it has started. So it has already connected to the Elasticsearch. You will see exactly this message here. Okay, all of these are the status message. Okay, where everything is green. Request timed out. Kibana SRC transport.ts. Let it's fine. Let's go and access Kibana at 5601. Localhost 5601. You should have Kibana. And by default, Kibana does not have any security. It means that it will directly allow you to log into the UI. And yes, we can provide security to Kibana, and I'll show you in the later session how can we enable security to Kibana and ensure that people, only relevant people, can log in, and not every team or everyone from every other teams can log in. And this is going to be the default page. Okay, the discover section, the discover is going to be the default page where you can do. And as ELK, for us, going to the last one is important, the management. Okay, so in the Kibana, you can see your index management, how many indexes you already have. If you have already put some indexes, you can see that indexes here. Okay, yesterday we were seeing that what directly interacting, but now whatever the indexes you see are the indexes which are being reflected from the Elasticsearch, because Kibana is just a UI application. Kibana cannot store a single byte of information. Kibana is only to display information. From where it is going to display, it's always going to display from Elasticsearch. So a Kibana only needs one configuration change, the location of a Elasticsearch. That's all. So the Kibana.yml file will be there, which we'll be seeing. So what Kibana needs is two things: on what port it should run, and from where the data it should be getting it and showing you. So I have a couple of indexes here, and you see this index. Okay, a test index and a bookdb and score index, and the number of docs are there. and the storage, everything. And now you can go to the stack monitoring. By default, the stack monitoring will be disabled. You need to enable the stack monitoring. If you go to setup mode, it will ask you to set up. When you come to the stack monitoring for the first time, it will ask you, it is disabled, you need to enable that. If you enable it, it is going to monitor itself, because someone should monitor Kibana and Logstash also, right? So by default, there is a default monitoring readily available for you to enable it. Once you enable it, the Kibana will start gathering the statistics from your Elasticsearch component and your Kibana component. Kibana right now health is green and Elasticsearch is yellow. Elasticsearch will always be yellow until unless it goes into cluster mode. If it is not in cluster mode, it is not properly set up. So though it is not doing any activity, though it is idle also, it will show you the status as yellow. Why? Because it is not in a cluster mode. So you no need to worry. Okay, so it is not in cluster mode, it will tell you that. And if you want, you can go into this overview section further, and which will give you a lot more stats here. So right now I have one node here, okay? Nodes equal to one. There are 9 indices and I'm using around 370 MB available. There are total 11 shards. Now this is my Elasticsearch, and the Elasticsearch is right now online and it is connecting on 9300. I told, right? The connectivity will be on 9300. So it's using 9300 port and CPU usage, JVM usage, and the disk free. So there is 8.7 GB free disk space on the Elasticsearch. The indices, right? The indices are nothing but what are the total indexes, what is all the indexes you have, which is nothing but the storage, how many indexes you have inside index, how many documents are there, and each index is going to store how much. Okay. And search rate means how many searches are happening per second, means how many people are searching on it. That's your indices is nothing but the actual storage of your Elasticsearch, because the data is index, which is the biggest component. Inside that you have document, inside document you have fields, multi fields, arrays. So that's your storage part. This is your node health part. And the search rate. Okay, so how many searches are happening, what is the search latency, what is the indexing latency, what is the indexing rate. And in this, right, you have something called dev tools. Go to the dev tools, it will give you a command line mode access to your Elasticsearch. So for example, if you want to get the status of your cluster, you can write get/cluster. So this will also has a kind of auto suggestions. So if you want get underscore cluster. So what are all the things under cluster? You'll get it. The endpoints, cluster health, cluster nodes, cluster state, cluster settings. So if you want to see the cluster state, click on this play button, okay, which is going to be run. So this is my cluster state. So in my cluster state, there is one Elasticsearch, and this is the cluster state, cluster UID, and the node name. Okay, the transport address, the max memory is 4 GB, all of this information. Okay, some metadata, a lot of metadata will also be there. Okay, so this is all again a command line mode. And if you go to this button, right, it will allow you to copy this as a curl command. So you can, if you click on copy, right, and you hit enter here, means you'll see the curl command. So it will auto generate curl commands for you, so that you can take it and place it on, run it on from shell scripts or anywhere. You can generate the command here, and then you can convert into CURL and you can take it. Okay, and for example, you want to see the cluster health. That is a very common metric you'll use. If I run this, I'll see the cluster health. So my cluster health is, see, this command is run on top of Elasticsearch. You'll only get information of your database only. Don't expect to get the information about your Kibana itself, because this is not Kibana. You are accessing Elasticsearch because Kibana is a UI on top of your Elasticsearch. So my cluster is Elasticsearch, and you see the number of nodes equal to 1 and the number of data nodes equal to 1. Later, right, in some time we'll go to Linux where we'll install. That time we'll take 3 nodes and we'll make one as master, 2 as data nodes. So there you'll see the number of nodes, number of data nodes, all of them. Okay, but right now it's only one node, and in that one node, the node is acting as master, ingestion, data, everything. So there are a lot of metrics for your internal and also the metrics for your indexes. So now get is you want to get your indexes. Okay, so these are all my indices. Okay, why you see all this? Because there's also, see, I only had 2 indices, right? Why am I having more indices? Because right now I am capturing my health of myself. Okay, the data about my health also is being captured. So the indices I created myself are these, the test indices and the book db underscore index. So these are the indices I created, but there are other indices created which are part of your monitoring. You see, monitoring Kibana, APM agent, Kibana task manager, monitoring Elasticsearch. So right now I've enabled my monitoring. So the data is also collected and it's also stored in kind of a what, in a indices, which is index. Okay, that's why this. But if you want, you also can, again yesterday we did put, right? You also can do put and put a new what, index. So put, now it is working. Earlier it was taking timeout. Yeah, so what I put was correct, but due to timeout issue. Okay, so yes, this is a valid command. So you can put, and can put a catalog, I can put a document here, and I can send it. Okay, you can simply create an index. Okay, so you can run any kind of your commands here. So let us run a command, get underscore search. The search command is going to get all of your data available part of your every index, and I think it's going to take a lot of time. Let us search based on your index. Okay, so this is a test. I have an index. Okay, and the test index is having this information. Okay, so I have a data about related to text and doc. So okay, so right now some of the queries are getting timed out, guys, because it's a huge amount of data and the resources we gave is not at all enough. So that's why some commands are getting timed out. That's all, but it's not failing. So there is one index. There is also one index called books underscore what is that other one, book db underscore index. Okay, so let me see. There's also one more called book db underscore index, db underscore index, and if you run that, you will also get. Okay, so this is also some data I put. Okay, there's some data. So yes, your queries will work. So this is the most simple way of running queries against your Elasticsearch directly. And these SCM, uptime, APM are all what you call, you have additional features. But when you go to management and you go to your license management, you have by default a basic license available which will never expire, and you can start a 30-day trial version to have all the advanced features activated. Okay, so you can click on start trial and it will right away start the trial. The trial will give you some platinum features. The platinum features are machine learning capabilities, alerting, graph capabilities, and JDBC ODBC connectivity for SQL. Means you can even start connecting to backend SQL databases, and authentication. You can implement your Active Directory or SAML based one, and you also can have some auditing required. So these are all some additional features which are not activated or not given by you, because I told you that company also want to sustain. So they put some features locked down and only give you by you paying a licensing fee to them. If you're not concerned about this, then you can cancel them off and you don't need to activate, but you can activate, you can right away activate. So this is a single server setup. And for the Logstash, again, you can go to the Logstash and install. But for a Logstash, you don't need on the same server. But yes, we can install on the same server. So let us install Logstash. So Logstash has a tar.gz zip file. So let's download the zip file. What is Windows event log? Event log, whatever happens on the operating system, it's going to be on the event log. Okay, so you can use WinBeat. Okay, WinLog Beat is a beats. Okay, yesterday we discussed about beats, right? So you do have a beat called a WinLog Beat. Okay, so the beats I told you are the simple and efficient way of managing your data collection and sending it to your Elasticsearch, which is your database. So you can download this WinLog Beat and install on each and every Windows server you have, and they'll start sending data to your Elasticsearch. Okay, so with this, right, you can replace a lot of tools in your company. You can remove the monitoring tools, you can remove your health check tools, everything, and you can have a combined monitoring solution with you. With the, again, I told you the Kibana has a huge advantage with the UI. Means the UI, the graph options, right, will be too much, and you can use it. And installing them is very simple because there's not much complexity. It's only download and unzip it. Okay, you don't need to install everything. Okay, these don't need any installation. So WinLog Beta. So now here for the WinLog Beat, again you're going to use this one. So for WinLog Beat, what you should do, you should just run a PS1 file. Okay, the WinLog Beat is nothing but a simple PowerShell script which you guys can understand. So what you do is you run it, but before running it, you should do a basic config change. And once you do the config change, you can run the command. So to install it, you do /install WinLog Beat. Okay, let me open PowerShell because that's better. see, the beats are already purpose built small softwares who already understand the data, take it, convert into the way Elasticsearch is going to understand, and they'll send it that to the Elasticsearch. So earlier, right, people only used to have Logstash. The Logstash, anyhow, we are going to see later Logstash. Through Logstash, right, in the Logstash there will be three pipelines. Okay, one is input, the next is transformation, and the third is a output. So input means from where the data it should take. You do you have any transformation to be happening, and then output is where it should send the data. So input is the log location of your program, wherever you install Logstash, in that server where all the information should gather will be location. Output will always be your 9200 Elasticsearch and any transformation you want. But that became complex. Logstash needs little more RAM. So these guys bought companies. So there was some company called Upbeat. So Upbeat company was bought by Elasticsearch, and they created all these Beats softwares, all small softwares which are low latency applications. So for each activity there is a Beat. For Windows there is a Beat application. So if you go to this Beats, right, you want to learn the beats, so it will show you all these kind of beats available. So lightweight data shippers. Okay, so these are all the beats. Yesterday I told you file beat, metric beat, packet beat. Now we are discussing about this winlog beat, which is a Windows one, because I'm in Windows operating system, I'm touching it right now. Audit beat is for auditing, and heartbeat is only for uptime monitoring. Heartbeat will only tell whether the server is up and running or not. It will not care about anything, because for us, when the server is not responding, if the server is not available, it's the most important metric we should be concerned. So that's heartbeat. Network, only data, network packets. Metrics, your operating system, full operating system metrics, CPU, RAM, storage, file system, or any other things you want, it will collect it. And the most popular and the most in demand or the most commonly used is a log bit. File bit means you tell this guy to take the data from specific files like your web server files, your application log files, any file. It will take it and send it to the Elasticsearch. So you see, ship from the source, plain and simple. Beats are great for gathering data. They sit on your servers with your containers, they deploy functions, and then centralize the data in Elasticsearch. And the beats ship the data that conforms to the ECS, Elastic Common Schema. And if you want more processing power, then you should forward that to the Logstash for transformation and parsing. So by default, you don't need any much transformation, but still if you want a lot more transformation, you can send that to the Logstash. On the Logstash, you have Grok. Grok is nothing but a syntax for doing all this kind of transformation, and then it can be forwarded. So let us go this guy, and okay, this is the location I should be going to. Let us install this guy. So what did I did is I gave the PowerShell. I told PowerShell to give that guy unrestricted runtime. Okay, now let me run. Let me use unblock -file. That is better. So it is installed now. The win log bit is installed. Now let us go, and it is installed in your C program files winlog beta. So let me go there. C program files. So this is your file bit configuration file. You can specify which kind of events you want to monitor. Okay, and you also can tell from how long or how far you want to take it. So, and the most important thing is here the outputs. Okay, here you will see the output. See output.elasticsearch. Right now it is localhost 9200, which is going to be perfectly fine because already I have installed mine in the localhost only. But in real time, you need to properly set it up with the Elasticsearch server name in whichever server you have Elasticsearch, because the WinBit is going to be installed on a remote server most of the time. But in this scenario, since we are seeing everything in a single server, this is going to be working fine because what you call my Elasticsearch is currently reachable on localhost only because my Elasticsearch is installed on the same server. This is the output. And if you want to output to Logstash, then you need to send it to the Logstash server. But here I am not sending to Logstash. Whatever the information is being collected, it's already in the ECS standards only, Elastic Schema standard. So it is fine. And if you go a little bit up, you can see where this should reach out to the Kibana, and the Kibana is this. Okay, path. Now you want any tags, anything, but what is important is this. Okay, the event logs older than 72 hours, and what are the type of event logs you want to monitor is going to be here. So we are going to take all this, the system, security, process, everything. Okay. So, and I'm going to take the default one, and it is fine. Let's go to this WinBit YAML file with WinBit documentation, and let's see that. And you can update or decrease it or increase it. Okay. So let's go to WinBit reference 7.x. We have used 7.5. Let us go to 7.5 itself. Your config WinBit. Whatever we are seeing that, right, this is the same reference file we are seeing it here. Okay, means whatever is the default file, the default file is being shown here, and you see right now in this default file these two are
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in cloud and DevOps, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification in cloud computing and DevOps by ENICT Academy IIT Roorkee, and it is taught by IIT Roorkee professors and industry experts. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job. Now let's continue with the session.
uncommented, and in the top these are uncommented. So most of the time this file is commented only. And if you want to get more information about your processors, okay, or more information about other activities, you can start uncommenting all of them. Okay. And right now what is only uncommented is because they have generalized that, okay, it's going to be name and security. But if you want more, and if you come down, you'll start seeing them. Okay, the max number of events you can buffer. Okay, the flush time means after 15 minutes you want to flush out and you want to load the newer data, how long you want to flush out, and where the file should be available, means which file you want to read, and then event types. So here number of process, you want the information about all the processors available. Yes, it can give you the CPU fields and the processor. It will find you the information about searching the processors. And then these are again, if you have any containers, it will also monitor the container. Those are processors output, and this is all proxy. If you are directly not connected, that is not needed. Any certificates, Logstash output, Kafka output. So your choice of selecting is only within this where we have seen. So your choice is here. What you want to do is here. So your name is application, not older than this, and keep null. You don't want anything, you can put everything false, but we don't want that. We need to get. And filtering, parsing, enriching, it's all about doing something, but there isn't any information about increasing the amount of information. Okay, it is monitoring itself. Okay, I don't want to monitor myself. Let me go and start my WinBit. Okay, because till now I have not started it. When you activated it, it was only in stop state. Okay, here or either little bit up, you will see always stopped because we have just stopped it. So let's start it. Okay, how to start it? Now you can run start hyphen service. So let me go to my Kibana now, and in the Kibana, let us add the index management. There are two indexes. You can create indexes through Kibana also directly. This is nothing but again creating on top of your Elasticsearch only. Okay, so create an index pattern. So based on your index pattern, if the data has started generating, you'll show it here. Okay, so it has not yet started sending me the traffic. If it sends the traffic, you can see here. Okay, so there are two index patterns now, bookdb index and test index. And when your WinBit starts sending the information, it will also start categorizing them here. And I don't see any data being gathered yet. So the index pattern is a way to find out whether any data has been generated or not. Otherwise, you'll not know. So, or else you can go to visualize. No data is there. We don't have any data. See here, you will get the information whether it is sending it or not. Means, as I told you, they all communicate on 9300 report. If you don't open the 9300 report, you'll not be getting the data, and it will be throwing you an error, your winlog beta. So that's why you need to ensure your firewall team, or if you have whatever your network team, to have 9200 report open between every server you install a WinBit to your Elasticsearch, the master Elasticsearch. You can have multiple slaves, but you need to have master Elasticsearch 9200 port, and you will know in this application. And the WinBit also has logs, and the log information you can see. But you are not going to, I'm not sure whether you'll use WinBit log, but what you are commonly going to use will be the log bit. The log bits is something you're going to extensively use because that's how you're going to ingest a lot of data. It gives you a chance to ingest huge amounts of data, and that is something you're going to use. This is on your operating system level. So your WinLog beta should be always in running state. You ensure that it is running, and it is already startup type automatic. Automatic means it will start along with your operating system. Okay, the WinLog bit. It is manual, but you also can make automatic also. It will start along with your operating system, which you can later configure. But I wanted to see whether this guy is running or not. Yes, it is running. So I don't see any indexes getting generated due to this. So it's not yet sending any data because it doesn't have it. So it is, the service is running, there is no issue, and we are on the localhost, and there's no issue with your localhost. Status is okay. It means that the win bait is happily able to connect to your this one. So there is no issue with your Elasticsearch or connectivity or anything. That is something you should find out. And there is no port conflict or port issue because they are localhost. It is directly reaching out on the local port itself. So let me go and show you how to do that in a Windows machine where you need, because the biggest problem is the resource constraint there. Okay. Let me see our other server. Okay, it is still copying the files. Leave it off. I will have a bigger machine created, guys, so that it will not give all this resource constraint. I will create a Windows server with a 16 GB RAM, so that when you create your this machine, right? Okay, let me show you this itself. When you install your Elasticsearch, right? Elasticsearch is expects at least 4 GB of RAM, and I've right now not given it at least even 2 GB also. That's why we have this resource constraint. Go to your Elasticsearch, and the main Elasticsearch config file will be in the config directory, which is called elasticsearch.yaml, and you have JVM options. Go to the JVM options, and you need to see something called as the XMS and XMX. If you are a typical Java person, you'll know the min RAM and max RAM. So here it is 1 GB, and you see, you should always set the minimum. For example, setting 4 GB. So example itself, they'll ask you to put 4 GB, but it is 1 GB. So it's highly resource constrained right now, and that's why this is not running efficiently. Okay, so let me create a 16 gig of server so that we can give enough capacity to everyone, and we can start injecting the data. And elasticsearch.yaml file, which is something now we are going to see in the local. This is where you're going to create your clustering, because the clustering only needs to be done on your database. This file will be using a lot now. So let me come out. Let me launch Ubuntu servers, Ubuntu 16.04. So let me download your Elasticsearch here. This time we'll only go to the Elasticsearch because we are only concerned about the Elasticsearch, because we want to set up Elasticsearch as a cluster. The Linux will be far faster than our Windows. Go to your bin directory, and we need to perform some activities. So a list of activities we need to perform on this AWS service, because AWS has a little bit different networking. So we need to perform some specific operations specific to the AWS only. So the first thing is Elasticsearch hyphen keystore create. Then there is a command here we need to use to set our Elasticsearch AWS one. So let me open that commands. Once you install Keystore, we need to install a plugin. The plugin is EC2F1 Discovery. Okay, so the plugin name is going to be called EC2F1 Discovery, and we need to install the plugin. Why? Because it is going to need a specific information, so it needs that plugin. So let me go and install Discovery-EC2, and ensure that you have Keystore created. Though it is there, you can overwrite also, but again I ran for my better confirmation. Then let me create my access key. So now go to your AWS, guys. This is a one-time activity. Go here, go to your my security credentials, click on my security credentials. Then once you go to my security credentials, this is for authenticating through API calls. Means normally when you authenticate to AWS, right, you're using your email ID and password to log into the console, right? But programs cannot use email ID and password to log in. They need programmatical access. So for that, you use access keys. So click on create new access key, and it will create an access key for you. Okay, it's a simple activity. Just click on create new access key. It will right away give you access key and it will allow you to download. So use that access key ID and the password. Okay, when you click on create access key, it will also give you a password, username, password. It will allow you to download a file, a CSV file for you, and have it handy with you, and open that CSV file. I have my CSV file with me. Let me open it, and this has access key. So copy this access key and run this command, a command to run your access key, which is going to be this Elasticsearch keystore add discovery.ec2.access key. So servers should discover each other. See, when you create a cluster, right, they should constantly discover each other. If they don't discover each other, they'll never know what is the status of other person. So whether I should take over the duty of master, if the master is not available, all those things you should know. So I'm going to run the add discovery ec2.access key, and it will ask for your ec2 key access. And when you download that file, right, you'll get something. Rootkey.csv is a file name exactly you get here. Only copy till the access key, not all, only access key, and right click and paste it.
Okay, I pasted it. And the next configuration you need to perform is a secret key. Secret key is the password. Go to your rootkey.csv and copy your AWS secret key. Once you ensure you properly copy it, right click and paste. It's done. Okay, so this is a mandatory step you should do, guys. Okay, so that the EC2 is going to perform. And one more activity is when you want the servers to discover each other, you need to add a custom metadata or adding a label name. So go to your server, all the servers. If you are adding 6 or 7 servers part of your EC2 setup, right, each and every server should have this configuration. Okay, a simple configuration, but it's effective. Select your server and go to tags, create a tag, create a simple tag, go to edit tag, click create tag and the name, for example, cluster, and you can do prod or production. So this should be the same key value to all of your servers. If you're having 6 servers part of your cluster, for each server you should add a tag. This is not any configuration, just a tagging mechanism, just tag. The key and value are completely your own choice. Don't use spaces. You can give underscores and numbers, but don't use spaces or all the special symbols. Okay, or if you give this in this plain symbol, it is a lot better. Cluster equal production, just a simple key value pair. Okay, now once you have done that, let's go to our configuration and go to your, when you do configuration, right, it's better to take a backup. So I'll take elasticsearch.yaml file as a backup, pkp underscore. So I have my elasticsearch YAML file. Okay, and here the first thing is cluster name. This cluster name should be the exact same name in all of your YAML files across all the servers you're going to create. So whatever the cluster name you give here should be exactly matching all the servers part of your Elasticsearch. I will give some, for example, elastic-prod. Okay, this is my prod cluster. And node name. The node name should be unique. So I'm giving my node name as node1. That is fine. And you need to give the path name to the data and the logs. So I'll give my path to the data. Path to data means where is your data going to be stored. Remember one important thing in your Windows, right? If it is this, I'm not sure whether you'll install in Windows. No one will install Windows because Windows is very, very slow. So all of the efficiencies, performance, everything will go bad if you install your Elasticsearch on Windows. So if your Windows has a D directory mounted with the 500 terabytes or 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes, you need to give that location here. The path.data means where the actual data will be stored, which is part of your indexes and documents. This is an important location and this will be important for your data nodes. This is the master node. I'm not much concerned here, but still I'll give a valid location. Don't give a location where there's no storage. And the logs are nothing but the log location where the application logs, so that I can exactly troubleshoot or debug if there are any problems. Okay. Then network. What is my network host? My network host is going to be my EC2 IP address. Okay. So if you want, we can go and we can get some information here from the, this is something which is look like this. Okay. Underscore EC2 colon private IPv4 underscore. Okay. And the HTTP port always 9200, but if you have choice you can change it to whatever you want, but it is better 9200 because it will be configured in a lot of locations, so you'll be unnecessarily confusing. And now we need to add the discovery information, the most important information, how they are going to discover. Discovery.seed underscore providers EC2. I'm going to use EC2 as my discovery mechanism. Then discovery.ec2.any.group discovery.ac2.host. These are all the information I'm going to give so that they are going to use these properties to discover. And when they discover through what IP they should discover is private IP, what is the type of service, and any group they can use. Yes. And awareness, how are they going to be aware of, means which is nothing but which AWS data center they are. I'm in US West East zone. Okay, East 2A zone, whichever servers you are. So you see this master is in which zone is US East 2A. Okay, this is availability zone, we should put it here. Okay, and that's correctly I put. Then the most important information I told you, though it is simple, is your discovery.ec2.tag. So what did the tag we gave here? Remember what tag we gave here? I told you a simple name tag I told you to give. I gave cluster, and I gave production. And if to decrease your confusion, right, you can remove all of this. Okay, you don't need So you feel that, okay, this is all confusing. I can remove all of them. You don't need all of this information. Okay, so that will be a lot more granular for you. Everything which is commented out is not at all needed for us. So I can right away delete them and there is not going to be any problem. Okay, so this looks fine. Cloud node auto attribute, cloud cluster routing, allocation awareness attributes, discovery EC2 tag. So cluster production, let me validate this. Cluster production. Okay. Discovery EC2 endpoint, EC2 US EC2. I think this should be fine. Let me save it. And once I start it, it will throw me an error asking me there are some prerequisites missing, but let it throw. We will fix it. So it will use the plugin discovery. Okay. So it will use a plugin called discovery EC2 plugin and unknown setting discovery to EC2.host type. Do you mean discovery EC2 host underscore type? Discovery EC2 host underscore type.
We have downloaded the package, then we have unzipped it, then we went into the config directory, then we have created the key store, then we have installed the EC2 plugin. Why we need to install EC2 plugin is the way the EC2 servers communicate is completely different than our servers which are in our on-premises stock. Okay, so they don't use a unicast protocol, they use multicast protocol. So means the way AWS servers communicate each other and discover each other is completely different. That's why we install a plugin through this command plugin install, and once we install we are going to add access key, because one server to other server they want to discover, they should have the credentials. So we are using these credentials and we have given those credentials, okay, which are programmatical access. And then we went over config and we took a backup of our config, and let's open the YAML file. And this is what we came to conclusion. Okay, this is the host name of your this one, and it's going to take the private IP. When you go to your AWS, your machine has a private machine IP, and that is going to be the private IP 172.31.542. That's going to be your IP address. Okay, private IP is going to be the IP address of the server, and port number is 9200. And this is everything looks good. And the important one is cluster, tagging it and mentioning it, and also which what you call availability zone it is. So now let's start it again. Ensure that you do this way, guys. Okay, opening the file and setting it up in the file. Now let's run. What is it? Master not discovered yet. This node has not previously joined a bootstrap. Version of the cluster is supposed to be 17. Yeah, that was a line missing. So now you have a cluster created. So you have a proper started, and you see again active license is now basic and security is disabled. And you see now we have a cluster state, and the node 1 is currently the master. Okay, the node 1 is master node, has unchanged, and the current node 1. So this is one node. Now I have the initial cluster, and now I'll come out and why? Because last time I was testing it. If you want to start the Elasticsearch properly in the background mode, you can do -d -p and give a PID. Any PID is fine. PID file you can give 1 2 3 4. Okay. If you run like this, it will properly run as a daemon in the background. So you can log off and log in. It doesn't matter. And to verify, you can do check whether a Java process is running with the name Elasticsearch. So this is how you confirm whether it is running. And yes, it is going to take a lot of RAM. And the next thing is how can you optimize your memory. So go back now to your config directory and go to jvm.options. You need to increase the jvm.options. As I told you, if you are using a data node, it needs at least 30 gigs of RAM. A 30 GB of RAM is needed for a data node at the minimum. And if it is for only a master role who is not storing the data or not performing the query optimization, he needs at least 8 GB of RAM. And if you're giving 8 GB of RAM, then the server should have double the capacity. Again, I'll send you a doc for that, but again, let me iterate. When we provide the heap memory, which is in terms of Java language, you call it heap memory. Okay, when we provide heap memory, the OS should have double the capacity. So if you have at least you are giving 8 GB RAM, you should have at least 60 GB of RAM for you. But when you go high capacity, you don't need. But in the small, right, if you means when it is in a smaller numbers, it is fine. But when you go to 30 GBs or here, 30 GB is fine. 30, 32 you can give for a 48 GB RAM server. Okay. So 12 can be having retained for the operating system, and 30, 32 you can give it. But no need to use the same logic when you go to higher numbers, but lower numbers, you need to be at least double. Means you give 2 GB RAM to your Java application, you should have 4 GB on your operating system. So there's a logic like that. So ensure that you at least have this kind of a server. So if you give 8 GB, you should have at least 16 GB on that server. And your JVM heap size is one of the important metrics you are going to ensure that you are going to have it. Okay, clear? Now let's go and create one more server and ensure that that is going to join this server as a cluster. Okay, now let me go ahead and create one more server. When you want the same server with the exact configuration, you can click on Elasticsearch Master, click Action, click Launch More like this. It will exactly launch the same configuration. Okay, it will not have the data, but what are the options we choose, right? It will choose the same options. So you can click Launch More like this right away. And it will even have the same tags also will be automatically created. So cluster production, right? The same tag also will be created to it. We'll name it as master 1, and the server which is getting, we'll name it as master 2. We got the server, and let me name it as a master 2. Now let us log into the server. Now let me reuse a couple of my commands here. Go to the bin directory. And the first one is you need to install your plugin. Okay. Once you install plugin, then you need to install your key, which is going to be this key store. Okay. Do the key store create. If it tells it's already there, it's fine. You can overwrite it. Then in the key store, you add ec2 dot access dot key, discovery dot access dot key. So this is exact command you need to run, and you need to have access to your secret data. And let me go to my get access to my secret data. This is the most efficient way, guys, on AWS. Okay, there is no other better way of installing or setting up your cluster. Okay, there are one more way, but it's a lot of manual way. So this is the optimized way you can perform. So my configuration on the discovery part is done. I've created the certificate. I've installed the plugin. Then next let's go to your config directory and open your elastic.yml. Instead, what I'll do is I will copy. Okay, I can't copy elastic.yml. So let me take a backup of it. cp elastic.yml. I've taken a backup. Now I am completely erasing this file. If you put this greater than arrow, it will completely erase the file. And if you open this file will be having what? No content. So now here, let me go and let me open my file. So the node name should be different. Then everything should be same, because when they discover, they should have different node names, and this node name you can give anything you want. Clear?
But you get this is master node, right?
Yes. So if you want to start customizing, right, what you do is first let us join it, and let us again tell you how can you do. First let us see if they're able to communicate each other, and then we'll mark it as one guy as master, one guy as data, like that. And on this server also, again, I need to set that security. See, one master we already have it right now, okay, which is running in the background. We have a one master, right, which is this, from where we copied the config. That is a master now, and we are also creating one more master. But see, when you create by default master, every master will do everything. Means every master will be acting as ingest node, every master will act as a master node, every master will act as a data node. But you can start again segregating their jobs. He'll be master only, but means he'll be Elasticsearch node only, but within the Elasticsearch node, his duty will be different. I'll show you that by adding a simple command. But first, let us see if he has properly done every setting. Now let's run this as an application, as foreground application, to actually see if we are going to get any errors. Once we have everything proper, then we can run it as a background application. Now you see this, I am able to discover my node 1 here, okay? And the master node has changed. So the node 2 is not behaving as a master. He's going to be joining an existing master. Okay, so when two nodes are there, two guys are going to be master. One person is going to be the main person who was the initial person. So now you see, I see the node one, and I also see currently node one is already having a cluster, and which is the details. You see this, my node one is having IPS 42. Okay, so you see I am able to discover my node one on 9300 port, and this server local IP, this local servers is 188, and the node one is 42. So yes, they are able to communicate. And if you go and see the log information, so we can go to logs. See, if you see, I wrote the logs into which location? Home Ubuntu logs. So let me go to this location. Home Ubuntu logs. In this, you have one important log, which is going to be elastic-prod.log. Everything is JSON files here, but this is a elastic. So let me open this log, and you need to browse to till the ending. Okay, go till the ending. And if you see at the ending, now you see this message, okay, that node joined. So there's a node which has joined. Who joined? Node 2 has joined. Okay, and first you will find node join command, then it will tell node successfully added. Okay, so now I have one more node who came and joined me. See, this 8:55 we started when we started it, and then at 9:08 time, after around for 12 minutes, we saw a node join message getting printed. And who was joining? Node 2 was joining me. And then it is added. Okay. These are the messages you should see. And this is the message log file. You are going to find out all the errors or everything which is happening in this log files. Okay. The log file is important and you should regularly check for it. Okay. Clear? Now, how can I check? Right? I'll do a curl command. I told you about JQ, right? The JQ command. The JQ command is a small command which will process your JSON into a pretty process. Pretty means it will properly display. Okay, it will not display like a jumbled data. Okay. Ubuntu apt-get update. Now curl -next get http:// Now localhost will not work because it is not running on localhost, it's running on a specific IP. What is that IP? 172.31.5.42:9200/_cluster/health. Curl next get. No root to host. No route. There is no route. EC2 private IP. No. At which attribute? EC2.
US hyphen east hyphen 2A.
Okay. Yes.
Above
This is a in which AWS location these servers are located for routing purpose, so that they'll route within that self. So I'm right now trying to access it locally because I'm not even outside. I'm on the local server itself. It should not throw any of this kind of error. If it was throwing error, it should show me that kind of exception. And we have just now saw the log files, right? There is not even a single exception because if you see home, Ubuntu, your logs, if there are something I should see, and there's not even a single warning message. You should see anything other than info is a something you should be taking care of. So I don't see anything other than info, not even a single message other than info. I see only debug, but no error message. So this is the starting of my application. Okay, so this is the starting. This is earlier closing, so this is the starting. Heap size, it is having 1 GB. So this is the starting message, and I don't see any error. So this is why I'm wondering, because I don't see a single error message. It is properly publishing its IP address properly. You see publish address and bound address. So no error with it, and it has started. That's why I'm wondering, when there is no error, what is happening? It is published on 9.9.0. I'm running this node 2 also in the background mode. Let me see what I did here. Yeah, it is 5, not 4. Okay, so you see right now I have one node. Okay, which is sorry, this is my current local node. Okay, I am trying to get it on my local. Let us verify whether the node 2 is running here. Grep Java. Okay, node 2 is also running fine. Let's also see any error messages are there. Home, Ubuntu, logs, dot log. Okay, I'm looking at the node 2 logs. So node 2, no error. Node 2 has joined node 1. So my node 2 is also running fine. So now this is what I told you. So you can get a better color coded way everything through JQ. If you don't put JQ, it will come in this kind of way. Okay. Now I am on this local node, but what I need is the cluster state, because this is local. I'm not concerned about the local. So cluster slash health. See now, number of nodes is equal to 2 and number of data nodes is equal to 2. So, and the status is green. The cluster name is elastic-prod. Elastic-prod is my cluster name. Okay. And the cluster has a cluster UUID, which is going to be a unique user ID, every cluster. And what is my version number? And the build type is star. Okay. So that's how you create a cluster. And now let's start thinking about how can we segregate the duties. Okay. I want one person to be only the master role and I want one person to be node role. So this is my server one, and to have clarity, we'll set the title here. Okay, master role. When I switch, you'll easily understand. So this is a master role, and we'll mark this as a data role or data role. Okay, so I'm on the master node where I first initialized it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll stop this and we'll start changing it. So to stop, you need to find the Java application running and then you need to stop it. Kill -15 the process ID. It will stop your Elasticsearch. Now go to your config elasticsearch.yaml, and now here you can give so node.master, node.data, node.ingest. This is how you need to give. Okay, if you give, what happens? This node is going to be master. Okay, so let's change it in the other servers. And the other server, what I should do? Master should be false, data should be true, and other one also should be false. And if you want both of them to be duty, you do node.data and node.master. But I don't have ingest, so I'm also going to mark this as ingest. Okay, because if you where anywhere ingest is not there, then there's going to be a problem. So someone should have ingest. So I'm going to give this guy also ingesting is only taking the data and storing it. Okay, so I'm going to put node.master true, node.ingest, node.data is false. So let's save it and let's start it again. Elasticsearch, sorry, this is not the bin directory, and you can tail the file. The tail command is a very handy command. It will keep printing the latest updates of a text file. Okay, so it is successfully started, no errors. Yes, node 1 added node 2. Okay, so this looks fine, and let's see whether it is again properly running by running the curl command. First we'll see local. Okay, this guy is running himself. Then we'll talk about the cluster state. Now you see right away number of nodes equal to and number of data nodes is equal to 1. Why number of data nodes? This guy is still behaving like everything. So what I'll do, but I will stop this guy now, and again I'll ensure that the master is false here and data is only true. First, let's stop this process 2422 and go to your config, open your Elasticsearch, and at the end node.master false, node.data true, dot ingest false. And like this, you need to add at least 3 data and 2 master in your enterprise. If you want, we can add one more. That's not a problem, but it's going to be the same recurring activity again. Okay, /elasticsearch -d -p any code. Now let's tail the command. Node 1, the node 2 is telling master node changed because it has joined as a node 1, and everything looks good. And this is not means if you don't see this message, right, then this guy will start behaving independently. If he starts behaving independently, it means that they are not cluster, they two are separately working, so, which is something I don't want. Now go to your master node again and run the command again to get again proper confirmation. Yes, so number of data nodes is equal to 1. Total number of nodes means total number of nodes part of your master, but not master eligible, nodes only. And anything other than the data nodes can be automatically qualified as a master. So there is one master eligible node. Okay, and you also want to see, for example, underscore cluster, or what you have a state also you have, I guess. So the state a very lengthy output. It will give you a lot of information, but in the state also it will give you the information about how many nodes you have and each information about the node. So state here my cluster name and node 2, node 1. So information about everyone, both the nodes you'll get, and the transport address which is used to communicate each other. So they both can be communicated on 9300 port. Okay, not local communication between them. Okay, this is how you can see the metadata, and this is a cluster UID, cluster coordination. Understood? That is the order of it. Okay, so if you want each and every one, everything, you can use the state command, but remember it's going to be a very lengthy information because this is data, right? It will show you a lot of information. What is the time kind of means? This is all the available data types. Okay, the data type called long, keyword, double, data. This is time related key types. So not everything is going to be visually important or useful, but a lot of things will be what is the current state, what is available. Now we have your cluster state. The next thing, what you need is I have two masters. Let's go to Kibana. Okay, you want to set up Kibana now. Okay, so let's go and create a Kibana so that the Kibana is going to be outside person for this guy, because again I don't want Kibana on the same server, or most of the times people also have it on the same server so that it is a lot simpler for most of them. Or else you can have it on a separate server also. So let's put it on the same server, because now master is not having some much business, right? Data node should not be disturbed. Master node will not have much work apart from routing request. So here I'll download my Kibana. Let's go to download Kibana. Kibana 64-bit, copy link address. It's untarring it. It's done. CD Kibana. The Kibana has again a config directory, but the Kibana config will be a lot simpler because here this is a UI application, but not the actual database in the backend. But the Kibana has quite a bit of what you call customizations. It is not configuration, but it is customization. There are a lot of visual elements, right? You do have a lot of customization available, but not every customization is going to be considered as configuration. So most of them you can leave as it is. The first thing is on which port is your Kibana going to serve. The Kibana default port is 5601. If you are interested to change, you can go ahead and change it. Then how is your Kibana going to be communicating? So Kibana is going to be communicating on my server.localhost. Or if you wanted to connect through an external service to an external IP address, then you can put, what can you put? You put on a standard IP address. Then where is your Elasticsearch located? My Elasticsearch is located on my localhost here. Elasticsearch.host http colon localhost 9200, because that's available in my local only. So these are the basic things you can right away pick it up. Okay, so Elasticsearch host, and now there are other things, but they're not much important. So right now these are the three things you should do the Kibana, so that Kibana can be started and Kibana can discover Elasticsearch, because Kibana is only an application which is useful if it is able to connect your Elasticsearch. If it is not able to connect your Elasticsearch, it is meaningless to us. And any customizations? Okay, here you don't need to do all the discovery, everything. Okay, no need of doing all of that AWS installing that plugin, discovery, nothing. No need of doing all of that. A simple going to go to the bin directory and start it. Unable to revive connection. It's not able to talk on localhost. Okay. Okay, it has discovered my Elasticsearch. Okay, importing the change license information from Elasticsearch. Okay, so it has now connected to your Elasticsearch, and it is telling the license type is basic. Okay, because that's basic, and status is active, and it will create some indexes for itself. It will take a little bit, but it will get the indexes. So yes, there are some warnings because it is trying to create some indexes. It is migrating some indexes. So let's wait for a bit, because it will rebuild the indexes. It will take a time. Let me open another session here. It's the same server. Okay, I'm logging in one more session. That's all. This both are same server. Again, I'm logging in with one more putty session. That's all. Kibana is not ready yet, so let's wait. Okay, so you can get this kind of message. So let's wait. We also have a lot more better way of checking it called /API/status. It will give you a lot more detailed information, or else we also can use status also. These two are actually, when Kibana is running also, these two will give you meaningful information without logging into the actual Kibana. It's asking me to, you can get past this message by deleting and restarting Kibana. Okay, there's index dot Kibana underscore one index. Okay, so do I have that index with me? So there are only two indices, and the two indices are being used. There appears to be some problem, guys. I'm not sure why the Kibana is not able to connect. It is giving a clear warning message to me that unable to connect to Elasticsearch. It's going to able to connect it, but not understand. So again, it's the same error, guys. No, guys, it is not giving whatever normally I do. I've done this multiple times, but in my enterprise, other enterprises, but not sure why this is throwing this classic error. And I did not want any conflict. That's why I put that guy in the same server, so that I need to check this, guys, and I'll get back to you. Okay, we'll talk about analyzing the log data. So one of the main reasons why we learn ELK stack is analyzing the logs, right? And the log information, right, contain the state and the behavior of your application or any of the system which is being run. And the log is a mandatory and it's a standard component we have everywhere, right? Every system, every application always generates log files. Whether it's an operating system, yes, you have a log file like an event log file or a messages file, or if it's an application, yes, you have a application log file. And these files, right, are going to log whenever even events occurs. Means if the application is processing a request, or if there's a user logging in, or if the user does something, the application is going to encounter an event, and each time when an event occurs, based on the frequency and the amount of information, it is going to record that information to a text file. So that is called logging. And one important thing we do is with a lot of this information, right, we need some way of analyzing it, collecting it, and also get meaningful results from it, right? Because we have hundreds of servers, and every application will be having log files. And when you are doing a troubleshooting in a production system, right, the same application or a Java application can run in 8 servers or 10 servers or 20 servers. So it means that you need a way where you need to get relevant information or meaningful information. And when you get meaningful information is when you are going to combine all that information and perform your analysis. And one of the simple ways people currently use in the market for analyzing the log data is your special tool, which is going to assist in the process of this collecting the logs, extracting the relevant information, and then pushing to Elasticsearch. So we have seen what is Elasticsearch the last week. It is the actual heart of your ELK stack, and it's a Lucene database, and it's going to store everything in a JSON format. And you are going to create an index, and they're going to create documents, and you can once you create an index, we can search an index, and we can perform operations. And the next important part in the ELK stack is your Logstash, because you can't simply keep adding the data directly by using your curl command or through the statement of your Kibana. So what you need is we need a tool who is going to constantly help us simplify the process of collecting these logs, extracting relevant information from them, and continuously pushing them to Elasticsearch. Means it should be constantly indexed. I want that, and that's where our tool regarding this will come into picture. What is that? Logstash. And the process of all of doing this is called log analysis. And your logs, right, always are defined as a incidents or observations. And your logs, right, are generated by a wide variety of resources. Means as we discuss some systems, applications. Today, a lot of companies have IoT devices, right? A lot of companies today use ELK stack to process real-time statistics, like on your industry floor, or if you have an industry, or if you have factory, right? On your factory, right, there may be a lot of devices, and those devices are also generating a lot of data, and you're interested in capturing it. Today, one of the most effective use case for your ELK stack is your IoT information. And these IoT information are small devices which are really deployed on your industrial organizations. And then people means who is coming, who is logging off, who is logging in, this kind of information. And all of this information is going to be gathering and generating this information. So any kind of log, right, always is made of two things: a timestamp and a data. The first you'll see timestamp. The timestamp will be in multiple kind of time formats, but most of the times it is very common that you see a log is which is going to exactly look like a timestamp plus your data, right? So when you see this, right, the logs are going to typically use for follow the following reasons. One of the first reason is troubleshooting, because why you need log file is first thing is troubleshooting. So when you have a bug or an issue is reported, right, the first place to look for what might have caused the issue is always the logs. Because yesterday midnight, 2 o'clock, your application crashed, and you came in the morning and you see the application is in the stop state. If you really want to find out what happened yesterday midnight, you only way.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in cloud and DevOps, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification in cloud computing and DevOps by ENICT Academy IIT Roorkee, and it is taught by IIT Roorkee professors and industry experts. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job. Now let's continue with the session.
Your troubleshooting even starts is by going and checking the application log file. What was the message printed at that time? And you typically have stack traces in the logs file through which you may easily find the root cause. Then to understand your system or application behavior. So when an application or system is running, right, it's normally a black box, means internally what it is doing, it is very tough for us to understand. So in order for us to investigate or understand what's happening inside the application or system, you always have to rely on the logs only. So, for example, right, you might log the time taken by various code blocks to run. Next time, right, you can easily fine tune your application based on this time taken by the internal application. Then, obviously, auditing. A lot of organizations have to adhere to the compliance requirements where they need to store or maintain the logs for a certain amount of time because it is part of their industry. And for that, and one more, with a lot of your machine learning and this data mining, right, the trend of analytics has recently been a huge trend. People trying to using the current events, trying to predict the future events. We all can means based on all this, right? We can conclude that the logs are very important. But the problem is, it's not that logs are not important. Logs come with their own kind of challenges. What kind of challenges you face when you logs is no common consistent format. Every application will not have the same consistent format. Oracle database logs will be different. Your Apache web server logs will be different. Tomcat logs will be different. Microsoft IS logs will be different. So every system will generate the logs in its own format. And as an administrator or end user, it would require expertise in understanding the format of the logs and then use this format to search across different logs. So that's a very known challenge for us. And the logs are always decentralized. Means if your Java application is running on 4 servers as part of clustering, the logs are stored on each server locally on the device. It means that we need to always go to that specific device locally, log into the device, and then use some notepad or any of the tools to open that and then troubleshoot. It means that there's a huge reason for a centralized log management where we are going to need to store the logs always in a central location, and it's a huge challenge. And again, no consistent time format. Again, the time format will be different based on each system or application, and it's going to be again very difficult to identify the exact time the occurrence of the event happened, because again the timestamp or your time format is not consistent. And another important thing is your data is unstructured. The log data is unstructured and becomes difficult to perform analysis on top of it, because sometimes it may have 10 fields, it may have sometimes it may have 12 fields, and again it's going to be as a mix of structured and unstructured data. And all of these are problems you are going to face while you're trying to perform log analysis on your applications in your enterprise. Yes, we know that the logs are important, they are having a lot of information, but these are some of the challenges you're going to face. And we are going to solve this problem of a collection of analysis and then solving these problems through a tool called Logstash. The Logstash is a key component of the Elastic Stack, and it's mainly used as ETL, means to extract, transform, and load the engine. So the primary way of collecting the information from all of your different devices in the ELK stack is through Logstash. The Logstash is a primary way we are going to collect the information, process it, and then store it into your Elasticsearch, which is our core database. So the Logstash is an open source data collection engine with real-time pipeline capabilities. Means in real time we can keep sending the data, and the Logstash will allow us to easily build a pipeline that can help in collecting data from wide variety of input sources, and it's going to help us parse, enrich, unify, and store it in a wide variety of destinations. So Logstash is not famous only for ELK stack. Logstash also can send to a lot of other destinations. So Logstash is not just popular within ELK. Some people use Logstash directly, independently, this single product only. Logstash is popular in the ELK stack, but Logstash is also popular by independently by its own because it can take information from anywhere. It can also output the information to a lot of destinations, including Elasticsearch. Means Logstash can send data to other people also, but that's not our business. Our business is how is Logstash going to collect it, and the most important is how is it going to do the transformation. What kind of tools are there in your Logstash which can post simply collecting, can enrich your data. So this, right, Logstash is going to provide a set of plugins known as input filters and output plugins, which are easy to use and are pluggable in nature. So thus it is going to be the easy process of unifying and normalizing huge volume. So the Logstash mainly has two main components: the way you input and the way you output. So both have plugins. Plugin means, again, you have an extensible nature here. Means it's not standard there. Okay, so Logstash has opened a plugin architecture where there are multiple plugins in how we input and there are multiple plugins in how we output, and this plugins, right, are a lot of plugins are there, and based on the plugins, interchanging plugins, we are going to control the Logstash behavior. What are some of the important features of your Logstash? The Logstash is pluggable data pipeline architecture. Pluggable means it has contains over 200 different plugins that have been developed by Elastic company, and they're all open source community, and which can be used to mix and match and orchestrate your different input and output filters. So Logstash can get data from different kind of people, and Logstash can then perform different kind of operations, text operations on it, means transformation, and then send it. It has more than 200 plugins and it is extensible. So Logstash is written in JRuby. JRuby means it is a Java based Ruby. It's primarily Ruby only. Because why Ruby, if you ask me? Ruby is a very good programming language for text manipulation. Ruby is the most ideal language for a text transformation. And Elasticsearch is mostly about text transformation. That is why it is written in this Ruby. And it's going to support the pluggable pipeline architecture so that you can build yourself your own custom plugin based on your custom needs if you don't find a plugin. And it has a centralized processing, means data from disparate sources can be easily pulled using the various input plugins it provides, and it's going to enrich and send it through multiple destinations. So it acts as that central person to process your information. Then there's a lot of variety and volume. So Logstash can handle all type of logging, guys, like Apache, Nginx, your system logs, Windows event logs, and collects a lot of metrics from wide range of applications. And it can also collect from TCP UDP protocol also, and it can also gather from HTTP protocol, your HTTP events also, and it can also gather information from your Jira, your GitHub, like these tools, and it can also consume data through your relational databases also through some kind of plugins. All this kind, and it's also highly compatible. Compatible means it is easily compatible with the to mix and match with your Elasticsearch and your Kibana tools. And how can we install Logstash? Installation of Logstash, again, the Logstash is, again, I told you, one of the core components and is the actual ETL person within the ELK stack. And again, the Logstash is needing Java, and Logstash does not have its own directory. So it means that you should explicitly handle it. Means for Elasticsearch, right? If you download, the JDK will be within that, but for Logstash it won't be there. So it means that you need to download the Java and install it and set up Java and Chrome as your environment variable, and you need to check your Java version and run the command Java version. So once you run it, you should expect to see the Java version output. So I am using Windows machine so that you guys can recreate it. This is my Windows server. Only little bit of more resources you need. So let me get, I got the password, Control V. So the downloads, right? The first thing you need to do when you're going to specify your prerequisite. And so what I did was I did not explicitly install Java. So what I did is I went to my environment variables, go to your settings here. In your settings, Windows settings, click environment. It will automatically give you environment variables. Click on edit environment variables. So you get your environment variables here. So what I did is I created a system variable called Java underscore home. Instead of installing Java, we already have the Java available for ELK stack, right? So I pointed my Java underscore home to the ELK stack JDK because the Elasticsearch came with its own Java, right? So I pointed that to that directory. As I mentioned in your document, in your Windows document, you need to create in the C directory ELK folder inside that Elasticsearch directory. So where you unjar your Elasticsearch, because Elasticsearch is also downloaded as a zip file where we unzip it. So the unzip contents will be in this. Your Elasticsearch directory inside has a JDK. So point it to that one. So it will automatically have Java. You don't need to specially explicitly install it again. Clear? It will not install any additional components, or it's not going to do. The only thing is it will generate log files in that location, log files and data location. And Elasticsearch has a data location, right? Because Elasticsearch is actually nothing but a database. So you need to properly mention your data location, and that too have mentioned in your install location. So you need to update a couple of things in your .yml file, the configuration file. So Kibana, Logstash, and ELK and your Elasticsearch has configuration files, YAML files. We need to update it. Okay. What I have done here is in this machine, I went to C directory. I created an ELK directory here, a simple ELK by myself. I created this folder by myself, and I have placed the ELK stack search here. Okay, so I downloaded here the ELK search and I unzipped the contents and I've put it in my ELK folder. So go to ELK stack here and go to bin directory, and so go to your CMD command prompt into this location which I told you. Type in there, and now elasticsearch.bat. Just hit enter. It takes some time and it will provide you the output, whatever it is. It's going to provide you the output, and it gives you a simple message called it's started. Okay, so if you give enough time, because this is running as your service, if you want you can register this as your system services. Okay, you can register this into your system services, and in the system services you can do that. So you see, this is a basic message you should expect whenever you want to confirm whether your application is running or not. Active license is now basic, security is disabled. Okay, so when you see this message, it means that it's actually running. The actual message you can see. NSSM is open source, but there are other paid ones also. You can use them and then you can register it. But only your Elasticsearch has a service through which you can register your system services. Others even don't have that registration also, not even have that. Okay, so register your service to your services.msc. Okay, so I think Microsoft also gives you one what you call help, so you can use either Microsoft defined one, or I think you are using NSS, that also is fine. Okay, so SRB start, there is one more application. Okay, third party utility, the same thing. You need to create an NA file and put what should happen when you do startup, what should happen to shutdown. You just put a couple of things and go to your command prompt, sc create, the same thing. Yeah, so sc create I think is a basic command which is already there in your operating system, and you can create it. Okay, I think you can follow this simple document, because this site is a very effective site. Most of the time it will 100% work if whatever the tool you're not working. But for your Windows machine or for Elasticsearch, you don't need any of this kind of tweaks, because it already has that service. You can register. For these guys, you can follow this process. Okay, and see, remember that the preferred way by the enterprises to run Elasticsearch is your Linux only. No one prefers Windows. Only you as a developer, you want to use it, you may use it, but your enterprise is not going to do that mistake of running it in Windows. So in Windows, right, you have your systemctl command which automatically registers it. So there we don't need to worry much. So here I've fulfilled my requirement by creating a Java underscore home here. Okay, in my environment variable, and have started my Elasticsearch. And now to start your Kibana, so I can go back now the bin directory, and I'll do the same thing, cmd, but I don't need them here. Okay, I actually don't need them running today for our Logstash practice. Okay, because Logstash today we are going to run mostly independently by itself. But I'm just starting them to show you that, okay, we can start these also. You get this message. The Kibana is running on the local port 5601. Okay, so this is how you can do Kibana, and you can copy this actually and test it on your browser and see if it is running or not. So let me run this. Okay, Kibana is running. Kibana is loading. If you see this message, it means that Kibana is initializing. Okay, and when you get Kibana, then you can go to your stack monitoring and also start seeing about your Elasticsearch, because it starts monitoring Elasticsearch. Click set up monitoring with Metricbig, or you can set up your self monitoring. And once you enable this, it will start gathering the information about your Elasticsearch. It doesn't need any external help, so they don't need any help. It doesn't need any dependency. So, and these applicants does not even need administrative privilege also. So the only thing will be that you were not properly starting it, or it is not being run in a effective way. Something is blocking it as it's not running the application. Okay, you don't need to reinstall the bat. Why you're going to bat reinstallation? Because you can run that Kibana by yourself, right, in the command prompt. Because I don't think that is going to be something you want to. If you want to use the same instance, then because see, for the Windows, right, you don't have the installation option yet. Means there is no .exe file to install properly. Means it is still in the beta version. So for Linux, right, you have that option of installing it as system services. But in Linux, it is not there. It means that you should use some kind of your NSSM or anything only to properly register and run it. There is no other option, because these guys are now, as of now, they are working on providing a .exe file, so that next time you directly click, it will go and install directly on the program files. That is now not yet an option, because it's not yet stable release now. So the only option is you need to do that only. If you're facing error, then you need to run that. So let's go to the Logstash. To download the Logstash, go to your elastic.co. In the elastic.co, click on try free. In the try free section, you come down little below, you see the Logstash here. Click on the download button, and it will take you to the downloads page. And right now, you see there is a zip file and a tar.gz, dev file, and RPM file. RPM file means a file to install Logstash on a Red Hat. Deb means a file to install on a Ubuntu, and zip file and tar.gz are directly packaged files where we can download and unzip it. So I have downloaded the zip file, okay, and I already have the zip file downloaded to my downloads directory. And one important thing, remember guys, whenever you're installing ELK Stack, ensure that all the three products are the same version. Don't install other versions, okay? If it is 7.5.2, ensure that the other two components are also 7.5.2 only. The three components, the Kibana, Logstash, and your ELK Stack. So here you see I have downloaded Logstash 7.5.2, which is around 169 MB, and which is 7.5.2, and I have unzipped the contents, and here I got the directory, and have properly again taken it and placed in my C directory ELK, okay, Logstash. And the Logstash, you see there is no JDK directory. It means that it needs Java development to be explicitly handled by you. Means the Java development kit installation should be handled by us. So go to the directory, and the Logstash does not need any running status, okay. You can have it running whenever you want, whenever the data you want to be injecting. So let me go to the command prompt for this guy, cmd. So now you have the Logstash, and what you have downloaded is the complete open source version, okay. And within your Logstash, there is a what you call, on the Kibana side, there is a paid version, and that paid version we are going to use it later. So if you go to your management, in the management, you go to your license management, you see you have a basic license is active, and you can start a 30-day trial version, which is going to be a platinum features, okay. This is where you can get additional features. So this basic license is unlimited, it will never expire. So it's always that we are using the basic license type of all the three products, whether it is Kibana, whether it is Logstash or Elasticsearch, okay. And we will enable later this start trial, and we will use some of the features later, okay. And now let's go back to our command prompt. So to run the Logstash, right, you can run logstash -h or -help to get the logstash command output. And the first thing is, let us see the directory structure of logstash, okay. So logstash has a config directory, and within the configuration directory you have your JVM. So open the JVM file, okay. You see here the two important things. You have 1 GB of RAM, okay. So if you want, you can increase it based on your requirement. So I'll increase it to 2 GB. 2 gigs because I have a lot of RAM on this machine. So I can easily sustain 2 GB of RAM. And all settings below are considered expert settings. So don't mess up with the settings. And right now, your Logstash is only compatible with 1.8 Java version, not with the future Java version. So if you're installing something, try to provide 1.8 Java, not beyond 1.8. Beyond 1.8, some features of Java are not compatible properly. But it won't throw you error. But again, as a best practice, you can try to provide 1.8 GDK, and you can provide what's the home location or all of these couple of properties. Okay, and heap dump is nothing but whenever the Logstash is failing, it will create a dump file which we can go and see why was the Logstash crashing, what was happening during the runtime. Okay, so if you find out heap dump out of memory, means the Logstash was having some performance issues during execution, and it is going to create with a file called as a heapdump.hpof. So it's going to create the file in the home directory location. So you seeing this file in your home directory means there's a huge performance issue on your Logstash. So that's not something as what you call a good sign your application is having. And there are some tools who is going to help you load that file and provide you analysis result. So that's your Java file. Okay, so only Java. So I'm saving it and exit. And again, there's one more YAML file called as a logstash.yml, which is the main file. And log4j2.properties also, we have a file where we can set the properties of our logging. Okay, where the log file is going to write all those things. If you make it bigger, there are a couple of locations where it will do. And you see, it is going to create a file here, which is log file. Log is nothing but what actually Logstash is doing. That, okay, we have talked too much about logs. So here again, the same thing. So the log4j is a standard way of defining the log structure. Okay, when you go to programming, right, the log4j is a library or a package through which you can control the logging format. These are all the log options. How much you want to do the rolling file, after how much MB, what is the policy of the rolling, after 100 MB of the file, I want the file to be doing a rollover strategy. I want maximum 30 files only. So this is your what you call log rotation policy. What is the timestamp you need? What is the file format you need? What is the file name you need? All these kind of things will be there. Okay, and you want to change it, you can change it. How many files you want? How many old files you want? What is the time file name you want? What is the file content type you want? All those things you can configure here for your Logstash application log. So Logstash is also a software that also has a logging. Is logging can be controlled here, and the logstash.yml is the main configuration file of your Logstash. Okay, so it's .yml, it's a YAML file, and mostly it will be part of your data part. Means how many pipeline is nothing but your batch size, how much you are going to process each time in each iteration, and the data part, where is your data going to be available, and also your pipeline settings, how many pipeline IDs you need to have the main ID pipeline, how many workers you need by default. So there are two, means based on the host CPU cores. So I am giving two, but totally have four. If you have more than 4 6 cores, give increase the number of workers. Okay, means parallel threads who can run. So if you have 8 core, you can give 4 core to him only. Okay, because Logstash will never run on your Kibana or your what your Elasticsearch. Logstash also has its own service where it will run. It is independently running somewhere. So it will never run. See, here we are running all of them on the same server. We will never do that mistake in enterprise. As I told you, each server you'll install separately. So based on this, you can perform your changes, and everything will be related to your data pipeline. Pipeline is nothing but we'll create a pipeline here in some time. So that's what it is going to call as pipeline, where you're going to provide the input, transformation, and output. So one activity is complete called one pipeline. So the number of pipeline batch size is 125, the delay of the pipelines, all of that. So once we go to pipeline, then we'll revisit this file sometime. Again, we'll see what are those. But the most common things you need to know at the upfront is your data location, the path location, and your couple of other settings. We come down. Everything is related to your day. This only. So let's come back here later. Whatever we are going to do with Logstash, everything we'll do in the command line. So the first thing is, I told you Logstash is all about getting information somewhere and providing it. How can I create a very simple Logstash pipeline? And I want to create a Logstash pipeline on the command line itself. I'll not even write configuration files. So the Logstash has configuration files. where we can define your pipeline. But here I want to write a very, very simple Logstash pipeline. Okay, so that we can define through -e on the command line. So I will generate std in, standard in, then output std out. Std out means what? What is standard in, standard out, guys? Standard in, standard out are nothing but what you print on your command line. Standard in means what you type on your command line is standard in. What you get output on your command line is called a standard output. Those are std in and std out. Those are related to your shell. Whether it is Linux shell or Windows shell, it's the same. So once I hit enter, the Logstash is going to create a runtime pipeline for me, and whatever I type, it is going to take that information. Okay, so let's hit enter and let's see if this guy is going to get started. So there are a couple of warnings here because I have a wrong Java given to him. He was asking me 1.8, but I am giving 1.13 to it. So my Java underscore home right now, which is configured, is 1.13 Java. So the first thing you should understand is you should see this message starting Logstash with the version number it's going to print. Then it's going to take you something called reflections took. So how much time it took to perform the reflection, and then it will properly tell you your pipeline. So it will tell you exactly starting pipeline, and the pipeline ID is always main, because if you want to change the pipeline ID, it is inside your logstash.yml. So inside logstash.yml, you have the pipeline ID, and the pipeline batch size we have declared there greater than 125, which is also the main configuration, and pipeline batch delay is again greater than 50 milliseconds. And this is, it is creating one pipeline. A pipeline is nothing but if you provide input, output, everything, it's called as a pipeline. So it will tell you pipeline started and pipeline is running right now and successfully started Logstash API endpoint, and Logstash will always listen on 9600 port. So now let us type something. So it is waiting for our prompt. So this is simple and basic interactive way of giving some information, and that guy converting that information to a proper Logstash way. Okay, so I'll just tell welcome. So the Logstash has provided the information like this, the timestamp of it. So automatically it will see whenever you provide any information to the Logstash, right? It will append some information to it, the timestamp of it, and on which server it is getting generated, and what is the message and what is the version of it. These things are additionally added to your data. Okay, so this is interactive. So this has become interactive. So this is a simple pipeline and an interactive pipeline, but we don't do this kind of basic. What we do is there is a process of writing a file inside which we are going to define everything upfront, and we are going to execute that file or give that file as an input to Logstash. So here click Control C. If you do Control C, it will tell, do you want to terminate a bad job? Click yes. So it is going to be Control C. Control C, you get this message. Do you want to terminate like this? And you can click on yes and hit enter. I'll come back to my terminal mode. So it has worked. It will properly come back to the command line. So now what we'll do is we'll talk about this pipeline. Okay, so installation of Logstash, just like other components of Elasticsearch, as I told you, downloading, installing Logstash is pretty simple and straightforward. Navigate to this location, download the zip or tar file, and following the screenshot to do that. Okay, so this is the Logstash architecture. So the Logstash event processing pipeline has always three stages. So whatever the pipeline we are discussing, right, that is going to be the core architecture of our Logstash, which is called as your event processing pipeline, and it has always three stages: the input, the filters, and output. So a Logstash pipeline has two required elements always, which are mandatory. The first one is the input one, and the other is the output one. And this filter one you see in the middle right is mandatory. So the data source means anything, a log file or anything is going to be data source, and data destination is always going to be here Elasticsearch for us. In the ELK situation, for us Elasticsearch is the only destination. I don't have any other destination, but Logstash can create files on the go. Means once Logstash processes, right, you can ask it to Logstash simply store it the data in the text file also. But I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in my Logstash gathering information and then directly sending it to Elasticsearch. So your filtering is optional, but input and output are mandatory in your Logstash pipeline. So let's talk about these inputs. The inputs are nothing but which create the events. Okay, so the filters, which are nothing but which modify the input events, and outputs are nothing but they ship them to the destination. So inputs and outputs support codec. Codecs means transformation. Okay, transforming from one format to other format. they handle explicitly. Means you don't need to again break your head and convert them. So they support the codec. Codec means which allow you to encode and decode the data as it enters and exits the pipeline without separate filter. Encoding decoding means converting JSON to text, text to JSON, JSON to CSV, these kind of things. Okay, it will seamlessly handle it. You just need to tell which kind of decoding you want. So the decoding is nothing but by using the plugins. And how is Logstash going to process information? Is it is going to process the information through in-memory bounded queue. So how is Logstash processing the data? See, there is a log file, okay, something called as apache.log. So there's apache.log file on your Linux server, and it is constantly generating data. And you have created a pipeline to for the Logstash to constantly monitor this file, get the information, do some transformation, and send it to Elasticsearch. So Logstash is going to the data will be stored into your log file. Okay. So here file path simple output file path, it will store that output to the file. Okay. Not much what you call options. You have a couple of other options here. One, the file you can store it as a zip file, or the path location, how the flush interval, file mode, what should be the file mode, means you can set up the file mode, permissions of the file, all this kind of basic options you have. So we will see the output also when we are writing the Logstash. Any other important ones we see? Not much. No, there are a lot of them because you have option, but again, our intention is to get that information loaded to Elasticsearch so that again we can perform analysis on it. Or again, once you store to Logstash, Kibana will right away have access to the data and then start displaying it. So anyhow, we'll talk more about Kibana, but our destination is mainly about sending the data constantly to the Elasticsearch to store that information properly so that later we can perform any kind of operations on it. Okay. See, Logstash has a huge value within standalone way. That is why you see these all options. Though we are only talking about Elasticsearch, why is it creating this many output? Because Logstash was independent first. Logstash, right, was not ELK Stack own product. It was developed by one single person. One normal person who was working in a company, who was a system administrator, created Logstash. Then Logstash became so popular. Then this person, right, went to Elasticsearch and he collaborated with him, and then he made this Logstash a part of ELK. So ELK was not original. Only Elasticsearch database was created by the ELK people. Okay, and Kibana. So Logstash from the starting it was independent software available in the market. But since this was so popular, the Elastic company took this person and made it part of their tool set. So that's why you see this many output section. Because if an ELK company created it, right, their output would have only been 2 or 3 things, but it would have not been this much elaborate. So that's why people use Logstash in some other kind of basic situations also. Not part of ELK Stack also, it has some use cases because it started as an independent open source project. Then it was adopted by the Elastic company, because normally you don't do this, you don't see company doing unnecessary additional things, right? Because they don't want their product to be used by other people. But still, since this is not their product, this was created by one person. Then let's talk about your filter plugins, and this is where the most of your headache will be there. Why headache? Because transformation. Okay, the data whenever you collect won't be proper format, right? So yes, it won't be proper format, and the filter plugin is used to perform transformations on the data you are going to collect. Transformation means the whatever the transform means, converting from one format other format, cutting it, slicing it, whatever you do. Data manipulation. Okay, it allows you to combine one or more plugins, and order of the plugin defines the order in which the data is transformed. You can have multiple plugins also, means the data can pass through multiple plugins also. One plugin out of other plugins can pass through, and it is going to act as an intermediate section inside your pipeline configuration file. It's an intermediate section, it is an optional section, and these are all the list of available plugins we have. So CSV, a very popular one, which is going to pass the input data through CSV. So if you put the filter plugin as CSV, so Logstash will automatically understand, okay, this is CSV file, let me process it based on CSV format. So how do you define it? The defining is like this: filter CSV. And not just CSV, you also can convert the data. So when you're gathering the data, you can convert the column 1 to integer type and column 2 to Boolean type. Integer means if it is having like customer name or customer number, it may be integer. And Boolean means is customer loyal, customer loyalty, customer no, yes or no, right? Then it will be Boolean. So while we are getting the data, we also can set the type of data to the data type. So we can set it like that. So we can, that's why filtering is not just about basic thing, it can convert the data. So it is converting normal data to specific data type, means it's integer only, it is boolean only. So CSV filter takes an event field containing CSV data and parses it and stores it as individual fields. So it will take it as a single field and it will pass it as a individual fields. So comma separate means A comma B comma C is a CSV file, but it will become A, B, C, something like that post loading this guy. And you also can add fields. That's again a very big thing. You can add fields. For example, your CSV has 3 fields. You can add one more field. For example, let me tell you what does it mean. For example, you have 3 fields: age, name, number. Okay. Now something like 20 years, name something Kumar, number is a 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you pass it through the CSV plugin, right? The CSV plugin can add information. Adding information means I can add 4th field. Okay. The field name will be here. If you see this structure, the field name will be something foo underscore some field name. Then it will be hello world from host, because see there are some fields available to you automatically at you, which is host, because I told you by default Logstash will know from where it is collecting. You want to add some information because from where you're collecting, so you can add a field through like this. If you write this logic, right? If you write this logic foo some field hello world, no need of hello world, you just put host section itself. What happens is when this data will be printed, right, after this transformation the data will be comma your IP address, like host name, whatever the host name it is. For example, it is from your prod hyphen db hyphen one dot for example sba.com or something. Okay, so this is my server name. So it will get like this, means you set as input 3 fields, output 1 field got added, so that is add field. So remember that all of your what you call the magic happens in this filtering only, because while you're collecting it, it is your duty to properly transform it and send it. Don't try to send the information, unstructured information to see it into your Elasticsearch. See, the more structured information you send into Elasticsearch, the more benefit you are going to get it. See, otherwise, if you see, it is fine to send unstructured data, but if you send it, you can't utilize Elasticsearch to use all the transformations or the what you call operations on it, the search operations, everything, right? Won't work properly because there won't be consistency in the data. So most of the heavy lifting should be done here itself. And this each of this filter plugin have enough knowledge to do all kind of these things. Understood? So remember that there's a lot of emphasis on the filter plugins and you should properly know how to do. So new field. So adding fields, we can add 1 field or 2 fields. It's up to you. You can add 2 more fields, which will get added. Okay. And you also can give ID, a unique ID to the CSV. Okay. You also can remove a field. For example, you are getting 4 fields. In that you don't need second field. Second field is unnecessary. So you can remove the field. Okay. And you also can remove multiple fields also. So you are getting a lot of data. Some data you want to remove, because removing the data itself is a very important thing. So you can remove the field and you can remove tags. And you also can tell skip empty columns. If there is empty column coming in, right, unnecessarily 5th column will be empty, you can skip empty columns, you can skip empty rows. Skipping empty rows and columns is also very important thing, otherwise blank data will load into Elasticsearch. And see, by default the CSV is the separator in CSV is comma, right? Because CSV means comma separate value, but sometimes the data you get in a CSV files may be like this semicolon separator, okay, or colon separator. Okay, so that time you can define separator, which what is a separator, so that it will properly understand. Because CSV means blindly it will try to see comma between the data. If comma is not there, it will I can't process. So you can also choose a selector. What is a selector? By default it is comma, but you also can select different kind of things. So all of these things are there. So that's why you are supposed to know the extent of this proper syntax, and the best way for you to discover this is through the official documentation. Don't go anywhere internet, because these tools are rapidly evolving. So some option which worked in 2017 may not work. So don't see old articles beyond 2018. Okay, Elasticsearch in the last 2 years has developed a lot. 2 years back Elasticsearch version was 2, now it is 7. There is a huge difference. Okay, so any blog you read even 2008 is mostly irrelevant, because that functionality would have been enhanced, or that functionality would have been replaced with additional functionality, or there are a lot of changes. So I would always suggest you to go to the official documentation. Otherwise it's going to be hard. Okay, yes, I'm fine you going 2018, but don't go beyond 2018 old documents. How can you Google search only specific documents? There's a very simple trick for you. Remember this, it's always going to work like a charm always. For example, I want to learn Logstash filter plugins. Okay, I'm interested to learn more like something like Logstash filter examples. So what you can do is click on tools. In the tools, right, you have anytime. Click anytime, click custom range, go back 2 years. Okay, or what I do most of the time is click anytime and click past year. So all the latest articles I'll get, all the people who are using the latest articles I'll get. Okay, so mutate filter is also one filter we are going to now see. Mutate is also very powerful filter. The CSV is not at all an important filter, but you can understand how powerful CSV filter is. But the most powerful filter is grok filter. But first let's go to mutate. If you go to filter plugins, you'll see the mutate here in a minute. Okay, mutate performs mutations on the fields, again, which is a very powerful filter which can be applied on your data. Whatever the data you're collecting, you can mutate it. So let's see what can we do with the mutate. So the mutate is going to mutate the fields. Okay, we can add, specify the fields. Okay, that CSV was only CSV, but mutate can handle on any kind of things. Okay, so the mutate is a plugin which can work on the normal data. The CSV what we talk, right, only will work on CSV data, but this mutate will work on general data we collect, any log information you're going to collect. So the mutate filter allows you to perform general mutations. You can rename, remove, replace, or modify fields in your events. So what all can you do? You can capitalize it, lowercase, you can strip, you can remove, you can split, you can join, merge, copy. So there is column 1, column 2. You want column 1, column 2 to merge and go as a single data inside. That is possible. You want to copy data, you want to join. Strip means, for example, the data you collected is having 123.12, so there are a 0.12 ending. You can strip the data after the dot. So stripping means cutting the data, uppercase, lowercase, converting it, adding, renaming. All of this are possible through filter mutate. Okay, so add field, short host name, you're adding the field name. Okay, split is through your host name and dot is your split. And renaming, short host name can be renamed to host name. So okay, so there is a field in the data you're collecting called short host name. I can change it to host name. Mutating, rename. So you see, within the filter I can call my mutate twice. First I can perform this filtering, then I can perform this filtering. So multiple filters can be performed. And let's see a couple of them. So I am converting the field name to integer. So I'm setting up a strict data type here. Okay, so whatever the data I'm getting collected, I'm doing it. Copying source field, destination field. So source field will be copied and pasted as destination field, means the same data will be having in two fields now. Data field means like in a single line, right? That's a field. Now join, you can join the data field name with comma. You can convert the data, this field name data, to lowercase, uppercase. Merging destination field to added field, this data will go and get merged into added field. That's a field name. How do you find field names? Field names are nothing but the data you're going to collect, it will automatically be mapped into the field names. So mutate is a very popular one. And if you see the name, if you see some, you can add tags. Tagging means it's going to just tag it, which is going to be useful when you're going to search it to your indexing. The same thing. So he's showing you an example. Okay, so here, this is the data you're collecting. Okay, in this data, password is there. Okay, and you want to remove it because you don't want passwords being input. So that time you will tell remove underscore field password, the data password will be lost. If you write like this, remove underscore field password, so the password field, right, it will be lost. So that's a field. Okay, then the password field will be removed now. Okay, and you want to have a conditional removal, that is also possible. Means if salary is equal to this number, then I want to remove the field city. So yes, you have a functions also, means your what you call little bit of functionality. Your if statements also is possible, where you can write conditional based mutate. So write a condition, inside the condition you can mutate it. If this condition is passing, I want to mutate. Okay, you want to merge data, you can merge data. Okay, so merging state and city, so the state and city will merge into single one. Okay, so here, where is my state and city? City is this, where is state and city are getting merged into what? Into city. So state is getting merged into city, means the state information also will be stored in the city value only now. So Now city value is before OCC, but next time the city information will be TN OCC. TN OCC means that is Tennessee, I think, in America. So Tennessee OEC. Okay, so like that. So you see state hyphen city MD pond. So it will be comma separated. Okay, so state hyphen city. So that is going to be merged. Your city will be there, but state won't be there. So person merging into won't be there. Person getting merged will be there. Adding white spaces, it is, yes, you can add white spaces into your messages. Okay, there is a message in that you want to add white space additional comma separated. You can add the data comma separated. Okay? So all of this you can do. Okay, and when you're performing, you can perform your filtering option. You can test it, and that's your mutate. So everything is a basic text transformation. You don't need to worry. Okay, this is not some coding or some complicated thing. You will easily figure it out. Okay, but all of this figuring out only happens through trial and error. But the most important thing is following your official documentation or some kind of these blocks. Okay, so you can go and see how to use. Anyhow, again, we are going to open a couple of documents. Okay, that's mutate, and we have not even touched the most important filter plugin, the group is the most important plugin, and that's where this whatever we saw mutate, right, that is not even complexity. Let's go to the most complex one, is a grok. The grok is the most powerful filter and the most common filter you're going to extensively use. So most of the time the grok filter will fulfill most of your use cases. Mutate is good, but grok is very, very good. So the grok is a great way to parse unstructured log data into something structured and queryable. Queryable means some data you have is highly unstructured, means it is completely jumbled data, but still I want that data to be converted to some kind of meaningful data and then load into Logstash so that I have a proper structured data. Tomorrow my queries will work. So, and the grok is the perfect tool. Okay, it is a perfect tool for your sys logs, Apache logs, web server logs, MySQL logs. In general, any log format, this is generally written for humans and not for a computer consumption. So all of this, right, logs, any log information is for human consumption, for us to easily understand, but machines won't understand, because machines need to understand either it is in a JSON document or comma separated data. It should be properly having some fields, right? So the log stash will ship by default 120 patterns. Okay, so there are 120 patterns by default it will ship, and we can use these patterns to match your logs. Okay, so and also if you want some help, right, there is a grok debug at Heroku, this website. Okay, if you go to this website, right, if you can provide an input data and a pattern, right, it will show you what kind of things it will do. So first let us see this, and later remember this website will be useful for you. grokdebug.heroku app, which is going to, you provide some input data, okay, and pattern, what should be the grok filter, it will tell you. Means you give input and you tell what is your output, and tell, it will automatically generate your grok filter for you. So you don't need to go through that hassle of creating grok filter for yourself. It will create for you. So the grok is a simple thing which works by combining text patterns into something that matches your logs. So it is going to combine your log file. A log file means, let me open you a very simple. Have you seen any Apache log file, guys? Okay, so Apache is a very, very common log every company will have. Why? Because every company will have website, and every website should have a web server, which I told you, right? There is no escape from it. So obviously you'll have a log file, and your Apache web server logs are a huge data mine. Okay, there are a lot of information you can gather from your log files. Okay, so okay, this is a standard Apache log. This is a line, okay, which will be printed in Apache. So IP address, name, what is the user requesting, and what protocol it is, and what is the HTTP response output, all. Okay, so this is a request made by a user, and then if the output is sent, then output will be sent. So this is how the data will be printed in your log file, which is your Apache web server log. So this, right, will be understood by human, but machine doesn't understand. Machine can't simply know where should I do spacing, right? It can't understand. So that time you can use your grok to process it. So process the information and send it. So for example, this is the file. Okay, this is Apache log file. Okay, this is the IP address from where the customer is coming. Okay, and this is the request HTTP method. Easy add, asking something or posting something. Get means is asking index.html. Okay, and this is the timestamp, and this is this. Okay, so now the pattern for this can be percentage IP colon client. This is going to be IP of the client. So the first data is automatically mapped into IP address of the client. I am mapping this information. So here there is no mapping because log is unstructured data. I need to properly create a field to it and assign the data to a field. So I am creating a field called IP colon client field, and all this data will be in this IP colon client field. So tomorrow I can write some queries and write on the IP and so client. Only the first column of the information will be given to me. So some data is there in a text file, and the text file has equal amount of columns, because when Apache is printing, right, it will print all that in the same number of columns. It will not increase and decrease columns. That's not possible. So I will have this data, same data, thousands of lines, but I want some meaningful insights or analytics on it. Means I should map this data to a variables first. That will be possible through Grok. Okay, Grok can do that. So that is why Grok is very important. So what you do here, the message you are getting, so this is a very simple one you see. Okay, here I am using the file as my input. I told you, right, file is one of the most common input plugin you told. So you tell file here and the path, where is this path in your system. Then filter, Grok, the Grok will take it, and that message you take it, right, it is going to become like this message. This one will become client IP, get will become the method, and URI pattern, then the number of bytes transferred to the user, and what was the total time taken to process that. Now after the Grok field has happened, this is the data you get. Client equal to this, method equal to get, request equal to this, bytes equal to this. So you see how properly it has become. And now this data can be loaded to a JSON and stored. Then tomorrow we can properly write a basic SQL queries. When client equal to something, when method equal to get, right, now you can simply start writing SQL queries. Not SQL queries, but your queries of on top of your Elasticsearch. Yes, so that's why, as I told, a lot of your effort initially, or during your initial Elasticsearch setup, you will be supposed to do all this transformation so that people can really get the benefit of Elasticsearch implementation. If you don't write properly, then if there is unstructured data, it is our headache to break, and it's not, means ultimately your ELK Stack product, all the money spent on buying everything setup will be wasted if you're not properly loading the structured data. So you guys or any team who is going to be the person who is going to load should consider it. You need to put your thinking around it, or you need to ask the people how you, what is the data coming in, what kind of data you need to. Sometimes you may not be getting any help, so you need to figure it out by yourself. Sometimes the team can help you. Okay, yes, this is this kind of data, we want this kind, because not everyone will know about Elasticsearch, right? They'll simply want Elasticsearch to do analysis, but blindly they don't know anything. So sometimes it is your only your duty to understand and go to them and question, ask, provide them simple questions. Okay, ask them what are you expecting from it, and based on that question you only need to come up with a simple solution and implement it. So that's going to be your responsibility.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in cloud and DevOps, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification in cloud computing and DevOps by ENICT Academy IIT Roorkee, and it is taught by IIT Roorkee professors and industry experts. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job.